Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to No More News. Thank you all for joining me today, Monday, November 18th, 2024. I've got a epic, heavy-hitting guest today. He is extremely outspoken on social media. He is a force on social media. Basically a genius, MIT PhD, the inventor of the email. He is the president of the Truth Freedom Health engineer, scientist, online doing commentary. I've wanted to speak with him for a long time. He is here to discuss the situation that's going on. Welcome, Dr. Shiva. How you doing?
Great to be here, Adam. How are you?
I'm doing well. Excited to speak with you and everything that's unfolding right now. So what is front and center in your world? What's the situation right now that's going on in your head with the state of the world?
Well, the situation, Adam, in many ways hasn't changed. The front and center is that what we witnessed on November 5th was the absolute consolidation of power, profit, control. And all of this was done because those in power do not want us, working people, which has been sort of my life's work to understand how all of this operates, do not want us to, what I say, shatter the swarm and build a bottoms-up movement of us, we the working people, bottoms up, to disempower them. And this has been the arc of human history for a long, long time. And my life's work with all those studies I did was to really learn how to shatter the swarm, as I call it. People go to shattertheswarm.com, they'll understand what I mean, what I'm saying by that, that those in power, people think it's a particular location in geography where they exist, but it's a swarm. Very much in system science, we call it swarm intelligence, a set of people who are distributed, who work together, who have a telepathy in many ways. They may have from time to time seeming competitive interests, but when push comes to shove, they work together. So what's top of mind for me, Adam, is that, as a person who's been observing this since I was a 4-year-old kid and then becoming a activist who broke from both wings of the establishment when I came to MIT in 1981, I've been fascinated, but not just fascinated, but moved to how to figure out how to not only expose these people, because you have a lot of grifters. I like that tweet that you put out there, a lot of these quote-unquote anti-Zionist grifters. They've jumped on board in the last 4 months, have really very little critical thinking, and have no interest in actually ending this. They want to essentially get clicks and views and generate their subscription revenue by talking about the abuse that's going on, the genocide in Palestine, and intentionally hide voices like mine because they do not want to give people a solution. So front and center is the fact that the selection of Trump this time reveals that the forces of the swarm have come absolutely together in one point, and they have created a multidimensional face to people of what I call the not so obvious establishment in each realm. Anyone thinking booby effing Kennedy is about health and is not part of the establishment is absolutely naive. Anyone thinking Elon Musk cares about free speech when he has openly said that free speech does not equal free reach, which is what the statement that the ADL has said, is absolutely naive and wants to be abused again. Anyone who thinks that Tulsi Gabbard is anti-war, when she has openly said that she was gung-ho for the invasion of Iraq after 9/11 and also gung-ho for the genocide of the Palestinian people after 10/7. And you can keep going on. And so the establishment of Trump, or the installation of Trump this time, has been to listen to the voices on the internet, which is what Peter Thiel does with Palantir. He's got essentially a big microphone that processes all the news that's going on and gives to the elites, say these words right now to keep the masses from building a bottoms-up movement and breaking away from you and rising up. And that's one role. And on the other hand, they are installing in the most vicious maniacs in power. And you can look at who they put in, just by the appointments. And all of this is being done in such a way to profit all those involved. If you looked at the election was basically a money laundering operation. $8 billion was spent. 3.5 went to Trump, 4.5 to the Democrats. Collectively, they spent about $65 a vote. When I ran, we got about 250,000 votes, and in this past election, and we only spent about 50 cents a vote. Bottoms up movement. And every quote unquote anti-Zionist grifter, and we need to call all of them out, Adam, intentionally wouldn't even whisper the name Dr. Shiva. Whisper it. They would say anti-Zionism stuff as though they cared, and on the other hand, hold a big door open as though Trump was their savior. Mm-hmm. So that's what's going on, Adam. So I think we're on a precipice of a very, very important opportunity, particularly for real movements like ours and true independent journalists, not the people who are opportunists, and we can name all of them. And in fact, it's probably a good time to name those people. So that's what's top of mind. And what I thought would be good for your viewers to know is that this is not something that's theoretical for me. I've been in the center of this, participating in this, and I've seen how they have stolen, theft of my work, and then put a front face around it. So I thought it'd be valuable for people to get some of those factual pieces so it enables them not to be fooled, Adam. So I think it'd be valuable for people to hear that. So let me just give you sort of the background of all of this, right? If everyone listening to this, and I think you have a lot of good viewers who are very adept and smart, recognize that the viewers that you have an opportunity, hopefully from this interaction, to take their consciousness and expand it to actually get on the ground and help build that movement. So let me explain that. So if you look, particularly in the United States or globally, the swarm, as I like to call them, and you put some of their pictures up of some of them, right? Their intention is singular, and they are laser focused on this very, very particular goal. And their goal is to make sure that you, the average individual, the 8 billion of us, do not figure out a couple of very important things: how change actually occurs. The history of the human struggle shows that any change that's been significant, any type of freedom that you have, was never given to us top down. It has occurred through militant, bottoms up, vociferous movements, bottoms up, collective bottoms up movements. And those movements were done by everyday people's names are not inscribed. There's no statues for them. And they do not want people to understand that those movements have an opportunity, if you study them from a systems perspective, that offers us an opportunity to really understand how we escalate those movements to win. So in the United States in particular, unfortunately, the educational system has wiped a lot of this out of the history books. And you start around the late 1800s, it was the great upheaval. Working people in the United States, women and men, right here in Lowell, Massachusetts, there were massive, massive struggles where the everyday working person was treated like dirt, right? Children used to work in factories for 22 hours in horrible conditions. And eventually people got fed up with this. And many of these movements were led by women and men. And those movements by the early 1900s, in fact, the late 1800s and 1886, these movements were demanding like basic rights. The elites in Haymarket, Chicago, hung 4 American workers for basically asking for the 8-hour workday. 7 American workers were gunned down by the National Guard in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And by the early 1900s, by the 1920s, these movements were explosively growing. There was no Kennedys running them. There were no Trumps. There were no Bidens. There were no Bernie Sanders. There was no Tulsi Gabbards. There's no Jesse Jacksons. Bottoms-up movements. Uncontrollable movements, meaning they were independent movements. So in response to them, the swarm, the elites, the Zionists, were forced to throw these people some bones. So they gave them a little bit of Social Security. They built some highways and roads. And that was what was called the New Deal. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was not a hero. He did this to prevent his own overthrow. And since that point, up until the 50s, those in power never wanted to see such bottoms-up movements taking place. So they branded all those movements as quote-unquote communists, quote-unquote socialists, being driven from Russia. And so, in fact, a couple of American people were hung and incarcerated and left the United States. But between 1950 to 1970, The right wing did that, by the way, and the left and the right between 1950 and 1970 wanted to dismantle in the thoughts of the American people ever building these bottoms-up movements. So all the bottoms-up unions were taken over by the Democrats and the liberals. And Wall Street and the Jared Kushners and the Donald Trumps and those characters, what you would call the right wing, took over Wall Street. And they worked hand in glove. And the singular goal was to make sure people could talk all the shit that they wanted. They could talk about oppression. They could write academic articles, about how you were being screwed. But they did not want you to get off your butt and learn this dynamic of what the elites had put in place. And that dynamic was to ensure that you would never rise up. And part of that dynamic was to make sure that you would create two versions, two heads of the swarm. Two heads. The obvious establishment, which everyone could attack. The Clintons and the Bushes, so on. The Dick Cheneys, which you could obviously see. But they created also the not so obvious establishment. The not so obvious establishment at that time started collecting the slogans that the people really wanted, and hope with Obama, or, our time has come. And you can keep down the list, workers, we stand for the workers, like Bernie Sanders, or make America great, drain the swamp. You can keep going on. And this was coming out of Madison Avenue, watching what people wanted. And they would then anoint their individuals to speak these words, puppets. And the goal was to make sure people would get like a fly trap trapped to them, and they wouldn't build these bottoms-up movements. And this has occurred at an increasing and relentless rate, particularly over the last 20 years. You can look at Obama, then you can look at Trump, right? Et cetera. And the goal was to make sure people were appeased by words. Now, on the online medium, you even see it even more nuanced with quote unquote grifters. Suddenly, these people have no critical thinking, and I can name many of these guys who didn't even know what Zionism was. Suddenly, overnight, they get promoted. As you know, Adam, our views get suppressed, right? Mm-hmm. They get digitally caged, and theirs get overnight promoted. Overnight. And they speak the words of anti-Zionism, for example, but they would never unequivocally call out Trump. Always leave a little bit of the door open, right? And even idiots like Max Blumenthal, whose father is Sidney Blumenthal, okay? Talk about a scumbag. Blumenthal will do this interesting analysis of Zionism, but then he's saying, oh, Booby, isn't Booby's appointment great? Booby fucking Kennedy. So that's what's going on. So the goal is, so if you understand from the arc of American history, is to make sure you do not get off the sidelines. You're constantly entertained watching stupid fights. It's no coincidence to have Trump going to UFC. This is to brainwash you to be entertained and to think Trump, Booby, Tulsi Gabbard, they're going to take care of it now for you. So for me, it's been very personal because, I grew up in a caste system in India. The Indian caste system, Brahmanism, is no different than Zionism. By the way, the religion cult that Tulsi Gabbard follows, right? The Hare Krishnas, they're all into the caste system. She's as Zionist as you can get. Brahmanism equals Zionism. The concept of a few set of people should rule over the rest of us. It's a political ideology. And then they throw in some religion into it. So for me, it's been a very personal issue, Adam, trying to figure out how we, understanding how the few control the many. And that's what Shatter the Swarm, that video everyone should watch. But more importantly, to understand how we change things. So I've always built in bottoms-up movements. I never believed in the electoral process. When I decided to run against Elizabeth Warren in 2017-18, I initially ran as a Republican. And you guys can look that up. We had a very funny campaign which said only the real Indian can defeat the fake Indian. And we are the ones who did some performance art on that, right? Because ultimately you have to move people to understand concepts. And the concept there was that Elizabeth Warren, which is part of the Democratic left, has nothing to do with working people, that she is part of the liberal bourgeois. And this is something that everyone needs to understand. The Democratic Party, remember, the elites have these two obvious wings, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. Think of that as the two shoulders of a bird. But then they have the wings that have to flap to manipulate people. The right wing had people like the Tea Party, right? Ron Paul would once in a while say something interesting. Or the left wing had people like AOC, Bernie Sanders, Jesse Jackson. These people would talk anti-establishment stuff against scripts given to them. But at the end of the day, they would always lead people back to the wings. So when you looked at Elizabeth Warren, she's the epitome of the left wing of the Democrats. Talks a big game. But at the end of the day, she represents the elite. So what's happened over the last several, particularly since 1970 till today, is that the Democrats, the swarm, instructed the Democrats that you are not going to really support workers. And by the way, whenever you say workers unite, working people to get together, they always try to brand that as communist, when it is the essence of America. If you go look at the history of America between 1900 to 1970, these bottoms-up movements, not controlled by some other forces, are the ones that conducted 11,000 strikes, 250 million people in those strikes in the United States. As the American GDP grew during that period, everyone's wages grew because people, the swarm knew not to fuck with people. But between 1970 till today, there are no more people fighting for the working people because the Democrats and Republicans united. And at best, you've had maybe 900 strikes, maybe 2 million people. So there is no one representing the bottoms-up people. This is why the cost of living has gone up exponentially since 1970, and lifespan is going down. So when I ran in 2017, we did a frontal assault on the liberal wing of the Democratic Party, which was Elizabeth Warren, and we exposed her lack of integrity in a very funny way, the fact that she's not Native American. We forced her to take the DNA test. Then Trump came in. I offered my $10 million building if she'd take the DNA test. You couldn't leave Massachusetts without seeing one of our signs, real Indian, fake Indian. And it was a Republican Party which didn't want me to run, even though I ran as a Republican, so I had to run as an independent. We got on the debate stage, we got all the, this is for U.S. Senate, all the credentials to get on the debate stage, and the Republicans and Democrats colluded against us. Then in 2020, this is where it gets interesting, and this is, everyone needs to, if you listen to the lessons that we learned in 2020, it'll completely expose Trump and the Democrats for what they are. So here in 2020, I decided to run against for Senate as a Republican in the Republican primary, which is held on September 2020. And if any of you came to Massachusetts then, you could not leave Massachusetts without my picture up there with Dr. Shiva for U.S. Senate. We'd raised close to $2 million in a primary, 3,000 volunteers on the ground, all working people, no paid volunteers. And the Republicans were scared shitless that I was going to win. So they run a guy against me who they have to give money to him, Adam, $250,000. And this guy maybe had one lawn sign up. We had 25,000 lawn signs, huge billboard ads on the major highway. And the word on the street is Dr. Shiva is going to win by a landslide, all done bottoms up. So what happens on September 20th? September 1st, 2020, which is a Republican primary, the votes are coming in. Well, in one of the 9 counties in Massachusetts, Franklin County, hard working class people, I win by 10 points. But in that county, all the votes are hand counted by paper ballots. In every other county, I lose 60-40, 60-40, 60-40, 60-40 to an invisible guy who no one even knew. And I never believed, Adam, that election fraud took place in the United States, long before Trump's election. So I had to put on my MIT hat, Adam, and I got very fascinated how these voting machines work. I'm a systems guy, right? So I get all the voting manuals and I file a FOIA because I learned something interesting. On the electronic voting machines, when you vote and you put a piece of paper through, right? Let's say you fill out the ballot and your vote goes through. These voting machines take a picture of your ballot. That's called a ballot image. And then those images are analyzed by the AI on those machines to determine who got what votes, okay? So by law, a law that was passed by a Democrat majority 50 years ago, which is 52 U.S.C. 20701, which says records preservation, that all records in connection with a federal election must be preserved for 22 months. So I go over to the Secretary of State's office with a video camera with one of our volunteers, and I said, hey, we'd like those ballot images. So this is still the primary, and I had moved my campaign to a write-in campaign because we had such broad support. Well, the Secretary of State comes to the window, one of their representatives says, oh, we deleted those ballot images. We don't have to preserve them. So anyway, I said, well, you have 10 days to respond. 10 days later, I get a letter which basically says, we don't have to preserve ballot images. I said, show me the law. They send me some random PDF file, which has nothing to do with the law. I said, you violated the law. This election is null and void. So this is September now 23rd, Adam, 24th. And I put out a tweet on Twitter. At that time, Jack Dorsey was running Twitter, and his general counsel was Vijaya Gade, an Indian woman, a completely rabid Indian woman, okay? Nuts, okay? So I write a tweet which says, Massachusetts deleted 1.2 million ballot images. This election is null and void. It goes viral. By the way, at that time, Adam, I'd do a tweet. I get 100,000 retweets, 20, 30, 40, 50 million views, because it starts going viral. And right after that, I get thrown off Twitter. Immediately, that tweet is taken down. So here I am in the middle of a write-in campaign for running for U.S. Senate, and I'm thrown off Twitter. Well, first thing was thrown off, no reason given. So I don't know if I'm going to get on. And Twitter, everyone knows, is the platform for politics. Let's be honest, okay? If you're a politician, you got to be on Twitter. Facebook is for kids, and TikTok is for whatever, right? Teenagers. But Twitter is the platform. And I'd never been thrown off in my life since being on there since 2007. Okay, so I want to get back on Twitter because we still have, until November, right? Another 50, 60 days to campaign. And no lawyer wanted to help me on with this case. So this is what interestingly happens. One of those fact-checking organizations from Reuters writes an article saying Dr. Shiva lied, no ballots were deleted. I never said ballots, I said ballot images. You see how they conflate that? And however, in that article, there was a blessing in disguise. The idiot who was attacking me said we did call the Secretary of State's office, and they told us they had contacted Twitter to have Dr. Shiva removed. Let me repeat that again. That the government had contacted Twitter to have me removed. This is why the United States was created, right? So you could criticize your government. I was criticizing the government of Massachusetts for a criminal activity, and I have the right to assert that, even allege it. Now, Twitter can take me off. This is very important to remember. Twitter is an entity. It itself is a person by corporate law, right? They can, on their own, take me off. Oh, we don't like this guy. They have First Amendment rights. But in this case, the government made Twitter take me off. Now, that's the grossest violation of the First Amendment. Again, I couldn't find any lawyer in Massachusetts because all the lawyers are in bed with government, right? Lawyers want to be judges. Lawyers want to get business. So I had to file my own lawsuit, Adam. I'm an engineer, reasonably intelligent. I never filed a lawsuit. So I had to figure out the law. And I filed the lawsuit, and I asked, not only did I file a lawsuit against the government of Massachusetts for my First Amendment violation, but I also filed what's called an injunction. So you can file a lawsuit, but then you can say, look, I need an emergency, this thing to be heard right now. And that's much harder threshold of proving that. Anyway, I filed the lawsuit, showed all the evidence, what had occurred, and the judge, a federal judge, agrees to hear the preliminary injunction, which itself is a big win. I write to this guy, Fucker Carlson, AKA Tucker Carlson, and Glenn Greenwald. And think about this. A federal candidate for U.S. Senate has been thrown off one of the most important platforms in the midst of his election campaign. And I have proof that this was done by the government. Nothing. And I have Fucker's personal email address. He does nothing. Anyway, we go into the lawsuit, which is, so I had to represent myself on October 2020. And it gets even more interesting. I cross-examine the social media director of the government, along with the judge. And we say, how did you decide to throw me off? And this young woman who was scared to be thrown in jail for perjury reveals everything. She said, oh, we saw Dr. Shiva writing that ballots were destroyed, which I never said. I said ballot images. And then the judge said, what did you do? Well, we didn't like that. And he goes, what did you do? Well, we contacted Twitter. And he goes, really? How did you do that? He goes, oh, we have a special VIP portal, a backdoor portal into Twitter, where we as a government have special access. And he goes, what do you mean? He goes, oh, we have it's a special portal. And he goes, what did you do? Well, we said he was doing this. And he goes, what did you hope? Well, we hoped they would take him out. And then what happened? He goes, well, we noticed the next day he was taken off. And he goes, how did you feel? He goes, we felt relieved. And the judge sits back, and this is all on Zoom. This is during COVID, right? There must have been 1,500 people in the Zoom thing. It was quite extraordinary. And he says, I'm sitting here under a picture of Louis Brandeis, who was a stalwart for the First Amendment. Did you guys ever think that if you didn't like what he said, that you can just counter his bad speech with your own good speech? Why didn't you simply go back on Twitter and say that's false? Anyway, they didn't know what to say. The judge, orders, I win, major lawsuit, that you will stop calling Twitter, and it's reprehensible you did this. Now, I win a preliminary injunction, Adam. The next day I write to Fucker Carlson and Glenn Greenwald. I mean, I'm the one who discovered the entire backdoor portal into Twitter, right? And nothing, silence. Then, by the way, I was put back on Twitter on November 4th, okay? After the election's over, so I lost the ability to use Twitter. So that reality is moving forward now, that here I have discovered that the fact the government of the United States, or the governments, have a backdoor access to social media companies long before the Twitter files. And we did video after video after video of it. 500 million people saw those videos. Yeah. So it's not
ADL was working with them too. Like they bragged about it.
ADL was working with them. Also, the National Association of State Election Directors, which is a national organization run by a woman called Amy Cohen. Okay? During the cross-examination, we find out that another group called the National Association of State Election Directors did not like what I was revealing about the ballot images being destroyed. They used their force of 50 state election directors to also have me thrown off. Okay, so that's what occurred. Now the big lawsuit is set for May of 2021. During that time, on February of 2021, I'm back on Twitter, and I had just done an interview with this guy, Mike Lindell, and we'll talk about that, the election fraud stuff, okay? Another scammer, all right? And a lot of my audience is like, Dr. Shiva, what's going on in your lawsuit? And once again, I do a live. It was at 9 p.m. around, and I said, this is what's happened with the lawsuit, and this is what happened with the ballot images. And right when I mentioned ballot images and the woman of the Secretary of State, boom, I'm deplatformed within 17 minutes, Adam, of doing that video. It was a bot was watching what I was saying.
This platform where?
On Twitter, permanently.
On Twitter again, okay.
Yeah, so first I was thrown off. The judge ordered me to go back on, which Twitter put me back on November 4th. And this time I'm deplatformed permanently. Permanently. So I go back into federal court again by myself. And the judge now says, I want to give you reprieve, but you got to bring Twitter in. Remember, I was going after the government, Adam, not after Twitter. There were lawsuits filed against Twitter, but I'm going after the issue that the government was the one who has this backdoor portal. So the judge now orders Twitter in. Remember, the first lawsuit was me against 3 Harvard-trained lawyers. Now Twitter comes in. They have their lawyers, and then this other organization run by Amy Cohen. So it's me against 3 defendants, 7 lawyers. So the lawsuit there set for May. The night before May 21st, I think that's what it was, I find these documents. You see, they called about the backdoor portal. It was called a partner support portal. I'm like, what is this partner support portal? Lo and behold, through my research, I find a document on a server in England written by Katie Minshall, who's a former head of Twitter's general counsel. And this document lays out how governments will use social media to silence citizens. And this technology was first rolled out in Britain. By the way, Britain doesn't believe in the First Amendment. They still don't, for the parliamentarians. Then it was rolled out in Taiwan, India, and then it was brought to the United States in early 2018 at the Belfer School at Harvard, right down the street here. The Belfer School is part of the Kennedy School of Government. By the way, John Kennedy and the Kennedys are a bunch of scumbags. They're a bunch of hoodlums. They're absolute Zionists. They are the deep state, one wing of the deep state. Anyway, the Kennedy School of Government, which is over here, has always been known as a center for CIA training, when it was built even in the 1980s in Harvard Square, Adam. So at the Kennedy School of Government in 2018, 3 documents were put together, which I found on another server, called playbooks. Actual manuals, Adam, which detail by the way, if people want to see all this, you can go to winbackfreedom.com. As I was doing my lawsuit, I was documenting everything. And these documents say step by step And it was put together by Democrats and Republicans, the military, the CIA, England, the United States, at the Kennedy School. And it was called the Defending Democracy Project, okay? Quite an Orwellian term. And in that document, it says how you will identify people who are saying stuff against, who are promoting disinformation. And in that document, I was rated as a top 6 super spreader on the internet, equal to Donald Trump at the time.
I've heard about that. I've heard about that document in the super spreaders. Who were some of the other people on there? You were one of them?
Yeah, James.
Was it for COVID stuff?
No, for elections, everything, okay? But the point is, this is in there, but it describes, Emmanuel, step 1, how you identify someone, how you assess their severity level, high, medium, low, and I was put into the high severity. So I find this literally at 2 a.m. before I'm going in to do my opening statements for the larger lawsuit. So I walk into that the lawsuit. At this time, there's close to 2,000 people on Zoom, including Kennedy, booby fucking Kennedy, sends his lawyers because he's interested in understanding what's going on. Okay? And I start my opening statement and I hold up this manual. I said, Your Honor, all of these people, all of these defendants claim they didn't know each other. Twitter was claiming we didn't know anything about the Secretary of State. Secretary of State said, we don't know Twitter. Well, in the table of contents, the authors of that document is the Secretary of State of Massachusetts and is Twitter. Okay? They're 2 of the authors. So I said, Your Honor, they've all lied to you. I said, do you understand this document says that there is no First fucking Amendment in the United States? This is an outcome of CISA, which was passed by Donald Trump on November 16, 2018. Trump is the one who fucking signed CISA into law.
What does that stand for?
Cyber Security Infrastructure Security Agency, okay? There's a different CISA that was done by Obama, but that's not this. This is creation of the agency out of Homeland Security, which would spy on Americans and create these backdoor portals.
Is Palantir associated with that? I mean, you know, Peter Thiel and Trump were...
All of those guys. Yeah. It's an infrastructure, okay? And I have a diagram. If people go to winbackfreedom.com, you'll see this diagram I had laid out. I had figured out the entire backdoor portal, all the parties, ISAC, everything. Way before this scumbag Mike Benz, who is deep state, who stole my work, and they promoted him. He's a limited
who's the name you said? Mike Benz?
Benz, yeah.
Isn't that the guy that, like, the Jewish guy that was trying to infiltrate the alt-right?
Yep, same guy. Okay?
So he's picked up your stuff and got promoted.
He picked up my material, but 2 years later. So this is why I want everyone to understand. Donald Trump signed CISA into law, and CISA was voted by every member of the House unanimously. Listen to me, unanimously. Bills don't get passed unanimously. And it was unanimous consent by the Senate, which authorized government to build these social media portals to watch and surveil us. And I was the first victim of that. So this is September 2020. I'm putting videos out of it. Send another email to fucking doofus Glenn Greenwald, the supposed guy who reveals shit, okay? He's a scumbag. Greenwald did nothing because he wants to own the space of exposing government. Fucker Carlson didn't do anything, but the public knew about this. We were getting it out there. So that lawsuit proceeds. It gets even more interesting, okay? The judge says, wow, Dr. Shiva, he goes, you've done an amazing job representing yourself. He goes, this is quite incredible. And it's all in the transcripts, you guys. He goes, I have the authority to appoint you a lawyer to help you constitutionally help your case even better. You know, I was writing my own briefs at him, right? And when a federal judge says that, you sort of have to listen, you know? And I was still new to this. I should have bucked him and not listened. You know, didn't have my chops yet. Anyway, the lawyer he appoints me is a guy called Howard Cooper, another Zionist lawyer. And he didn't tell me that he was representing Dershowitz at the time, who was in the case against Jeffrey Epstein. So Cooper's job was to help me win this case against the government, right? And that case was set for July. 7 weeks. Now you got to understand, I'm doing all my fucking briefs, and I'm learning the law myself. I've never written this kind of stuff. So 7 weeks, this guy is supposed to write up all the briefs and make it tight. Well, 3 days before they're due, I'm like, and throughout, I'm like, Howard, how's it going? And he goes, you know, Shiva, if I were you, I would drop all the claims against the government. Just get back on Twitter. You'll be the first guy put back on Twitter. You'll be a hero for the American public. And I go, Howard, what the fuck are you talking about? I said, This is way beyond me getting on Twitter and being a hero. This is the goddamn government of the United States has violated the First Amendment. And that's why my parents left India to come here. What are you talking about? Anyway, he said, well, it's my way or the highway. So I had to fire him. 72 hours left, and he had done nothing, Adam. So I had to write close to 2,000 pages of briefs by myself, submit them, and this time the judge is flipped. And he's attacking me for why did I fire my lawyer? And interesting enough, there were a lot of Zionist lawyers. It's quite fascinating, okay? And these lawyers are like, wow, Howard was a great lawyer. Why did Dr. Shiva fire him? And I went into this pit of vipers. It was by being crucified. So the judge had hoped that I would just go back on Twitter and be a good, house slave and move on my merry way. Because the evidence I had was so powerful, showing the government had a direct communication to Twitter. Twitter would not have thrown me off were it not for the government. That's the test. Twitter could have thrown me off on themselves. Very important. Okay.
And when Elon bought, hold on, just to interrupt real quick, Elon bought Twitter and revealed that this was going on also in the Twitter files.
He didn't reveal shit. He's a fucker.
He revealed some things, though. Maybe not all of it, but some things.
I want to get to this because my history, this is why they have to intentionally not whisper my name, because I was in the thick of this. So here, the judge flips and then forces me to not file the thing, and I refused and was going to sanction me and put me in jail. I mean, it was quite fucking incredible. So I decide strategically to walk away, and I file my lawsuit, which is now in federal court in D.C. against Musk, Zuckerberg, etc. But the point is this, that this was done in 2020, 2021. 500 million people knew about this all over the world. Fucker Carlson, Glenn Greenwald. I never saw fucking Elon Musk fighting. Nowhere to be found. Now, fast forward to December 2022, about a year and a half later, I'm put back on Twitter. And you guys go look at this timeline. And when I get back on Twitter, Elon Musk is saying, oh, I need a new CEO. I can't run Twitter, right? Remember that? And I said, Elon, why don't you make me your CEO? That was my first tweet. And I said, I have a PhD at MIT. I invented email. I could help you out. That tweet goes viral, Adam. I think I had probably 40 interviews with different news organizations, MSM news organizations. Oh, you want to be, and I think I was getting, I think that one tweet got like 20, 30 million views.
I believe I remember seeing it. I think I saw it.
And right after that, Clayton Morris calls me up from Redacted, and he goes, I didn't know you did all this before. I go, yeah, Clayton, I'm the one who fucking did this. I said, Fucker Carlson intentionally concealed this. And Clayton used to be Fucker Carlson's host. And so Clayton Morris did a video of it, an interview, and you'll see that out there. So what then happens is the Twitter files is mysteriously now created, okay? And right before that was created, I started hitting Elon because I know he's a fucking CIA deep state Mossad setup. You could see it all over his face, his history, right?
Real scary person to be a front man for some intelligence agency, or some cabal, all the influence and power he has.
Yeah, I mean, where Elon Musk begins and government ends, nobody knows. Everything you can look at, SpaceX funded by the government, Twitter, Section 230 immunity. It wouldn't exist without government. And Tesla, wouldn't exist without all those carbon credits. So this guy's a manifestation of the government. So I start tweeting at Elon right after I got, this massive exposure again, 10, 20 million views per day. I said, Elon, are you going to remove that backdoor portal from Twitter? You're claiming you're for free speech. And Adam, you can see it. I was relentless. I have the view tracking, went from 10 million views a day down to 10,000 in a period of 30 days. Absolute digital cage. Then Clayton Morris, which is also up there. Remember when he did his Twitter files and his first Twitter space with all those other fools, acting like they're fighting for free speech?
Whose first space?
Twitter space. It was the first Twitter space Elon did.
Okay.
Where he's talking about Twitter files. And in that space, Clayton Morris, I think there's like 1 million people on. And Clayton Morris says, Elon, Dr. Shiva, in his federal lawsuit, exposed the fact that there's a backdoor portal into Twitter. You are claiming you're for free speech. Are you going to take it down? And Elon acts stupid. He's a fucking actor. He says, oh, that sounds like Big Brother. I'll get back to you on that. Silence. Never got back. Okay? And then after that, I'm hammering away like, hey, wait a minute, this fucking backdoor portal, because here's all the lawsuit. You could see my views get shrinking in a digital cage. And then fucker Carlson, they pull out this dirtbag Mike Benz, Twitter files, Mario Nafal, all these fools. But and Mario Nafal invited me to one event. I said, look, the backdoor portal exists. Elon Musk is full of shit. And so did Grant Cardone. Silence on these massive spaces. And they would never invite me back. I became the most dangerous guy to talk about this. So what they did was this, and I didn't know what the fuck they're doing, Adam. A scientist friend of mine, I was doing a science presentation. He goes, you know, Shiva, one of my friends used to be in the CIA. And he goes, have you ever heard of the term called limited hangout? I go, no, what is that? He goes, well, it was the strategy that Richard Nixon put together when they were going to expose all the stuff of his Watergate, right? I mean, they had found out he'd done the burglary, all the shit he'd done. So what him and I forget the other guy's name, Haldeman, said was, we're going to do a limited hangout. We don't want them to find everything, so we're going to release a little bit of the story. There was a burglary. It is a CIA technique. It is a deep state technique that when you know that the big truth is going to come out, you find other actors to release little pieces of the truth and own the story with the aim of suppressing the big story.
Yeah, and a lot of times inject disinformation into it as well.
And make it wacky so you don't really expose it. So two things happen. They did the Twitter files to suppress what I had discovered, and then these fools filed another lawsuit called Missouri versus Biden, against the COVID guys. But they intentionally did not include my evidence. Not to give credit to the guy, because I'm not part of their swarm. One of the things you all need to recognize is that when one of us discovers stuff, when one of us bottoms up, does the work, and we're not controllable, they are so devious. They want to suppress our news and not give credit because they don't want to give credit to the independent people who discover it. It gives us too much visibility. You see, visibility and invisibility are their two weapons. I was unfortunate for them during that 2020 period, got out everywhere. They didn't expect that, Adam. That was a glitch. That was a bug. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so the cat got out of the bag. But what I'm trying to tell everyone is Elon fucking Musk is a dirtbag. Okay. Mm-hmm. He talks about free speech, but he openly tells you free speech is not free reach, which is what the ADL says. Mm-hmm. And the fundamentals of the Constitution are free speech. We're supposed to equal free reach. And this is why the United States government in its infancy created an infrastructure for communication. You know what that was called? The fucking Postal Service. The United States Postal Service, people diminish it, was created as an infrastructure long before wires and electricity to make sure every citizen could communicate with pennies. And if you opened up a letter, if any postal worker, they had a separate police force, was 22-year sentence in prison. Now, as the inventor of email in 1997, when email became a public tool and I saw social media, I went to the Postal Service. I said, you know what? You guys should offer a public email service so we're protected by the laws of the United States. But what has been going on, Adam, is that there's been a process where government infrastructure, which is protected by the Bill of Rights, is being outsourced to private companies. Very, very clever. So we don't have any more rights. So surveillance is being outlawed to Starlink. Starlink just got a $2 billion grant from the Pentagon. Social media infrastructure, which is our infrastructure, mail infrastructure, outsourced to private companies. Private companies can deplatform you, but the government can't. The government can't say, oh, Adam, we're going to throw you off the Postal Service. No, you have First Amendment rights. So this is very subtle. This has been going on. So what the Elon Trump, as I like to call them, is the pinnacle of government and big corporations coming together. This is what's called state capitalism. This is what we attack China on. China is state capitalist. And that's what November 5th is about. So if you look at that arc I just shared with you, end to end, those two scumbags right now are talking a great game as though they're against the establishment, but they are as establishment as you can get. So that's one example, Adam, that I just walked you through. So the entire issue with the backdoor portal to Twitter, Elon Musk has not taken it down, the motherfucker. He has not taken it down. And Trump. Are
you able to confirm that he hasn't taken it down, or just because he hasn't talked about it and said he took it down?
Well, the issue is that CISA exists. CISA demands they have it. Okay. CISA demands they have it, or you won't be. The reason that a Twitter or Facebook, etc., very important to remember the financial motivation here. These companies are what are called social media platforms. But however, they're different than a publishing company like a New York Times. If the New York Times made $1 million in revenue, they're going to get, or $1 billion in revenue, they're going to get 1x valuation, $1 billion. But if a social media company makes $1 billion in revenue, you know what their valuation is? Multiple? It's 50. Mm-hmm. Why? Because a social media company does not have liability. You see? If I post something on social media that defames you, you can't sue Twitter. You can sue me. But if a New York Times writer writes something against you, you could sue them. You see, they have more liability. So social media companies do not have liability, which they get an increased valuation. Why? That's because of Section 230 immunity. The quid pro quo was, for you to get Section 230 immunity, Elon Musk or Facebook, you're going to give us a backdoor portal. That was the wink, wink, nudge, nudge, which no one talks about. This is what Silicon Valley did.
Trump's talking about altering Section 230. That'll probably be for more censorship, though.
Section 230 is actually a good thing. It's not. It's actually is good for good reasons. But what I'm saying is the Congress people create all the Silicon Valley people who funded these guys made sure that the backdoor portal exists. That's what CISA was about. Bottom line is, all these companies have a backdoor portal into Twitter. All of them. I'm sorry, the government, Twitter, Facebook, etc.
And the Five Eyes, and Israel's in the Five Eyes, and Elon was going to do the validating people's licenses with the Israeli company. They're sitting here next to like one of the top guys from Saudi Arabia that's I think involved with Jared Kushner's fund, and then Ari Emanuel, the top Hollywood agent, brother of Rahm Emanuel. Their dad was a Israeli in Haganah, and he's the owner of the UFC with Joe Rogan and Elon and this whole swarm, as you call them, or I like David Icke's term also, mainstream alternative media. People are desperate for a savior. And what do you think of Trump's, how his cabinet is shaping up? And what do you think his next 4 years are going to look like?
Well, what we are seeing, as I said at the outset, and by the way, I'm glad you pointed that out, Adam. Everyone should know Ari Emanuel was Trump's agent. He was Obama's agent, okay? And Ari Emanuel is the one, after Trump went bankrupt, you can go look at this history. Wilbur Ross is the one who saved Trump after his last bankruptcy, where he was taking 14% loans, and they put him on the trajectory to be president starting in late 90s, okay? And he was given all the book deals, The Apprentice show, etc.
Right. He was his agent that probably got him The Apprentice.
All of it.
Ari Emanuel was
yes.
Trump's agent.
Yes.
And the famous image of Elon on the boat getting hosed off, that was Ari Emanuel doing the hosing.
Yes. And so I did a whole video on this a couple of years ago. So Ari Emanuel, Rahm Emanuel, these are absolute Zionist Mossad creatures. And that picture right there is quite extraordinary because you have a quote unquote a Jew and you have a Islamic guy, right? So people need to understand, you don't need to be Jewish to be a Zionist. You can be a Hindu Zionist, you can be an Arab Zionist, you can be a Muslim Zionist, you can be a Christian Zionist. In fact, most Zionists are Christian Zionists. And then
why are there so many Indian Zionists, Indian supporters of Israel, like especially on social media?
Well, most of them are Brahmins. So Adam, here's another big distinction between me and all those other fucking Indians, okay? Most Indians are racist, okay? They're all Zionists. You know, remember I told you there's a caste.
They hate Islam, is that why? Because they don't like Islam?
Well, it's even deeper than that. Let me explain. India has a caste system. So the Hindu religion originally was we can go into the detail. Hindus really means the Indus Valley, okay? The people of the Indus Valley, which were the people of that region. When the British came and et cetera, they started calling them capital H, Hindus, right? It's not a religion, it's just a people in that region. But nonetheless, a subset of those people, like the Zionists, in fact, I would probably say they have probably Zionist blood in them, okay, created Brahmanism, which said the people born like this are better than everyone else. The 0.001%, they called themselves Brahmins and everyone else was Shudras, the untouchables. They had to do all the shit work, okay? You know, climbing the trees, doing this. So this was something that occurred around the 8th century. So the caste system gets developed and brainwashed into the Indians. And that was Brahmanism. So Brahmanism is a political ideology which is exactly the same as Zionism, the concept of the chosen people. Exactly the same.
Ben Shapiro compares Jews and Noahide laws with the caste system.
Exactly.
I have a clip of him saying it's like a caste system, and they're on the top.
Right. So you have to understand, Vivek Ramaswamy, Vivek the Snake, I mean, I wish I met that guy somewhere in some alley by myself, okay? Complete fucking scumbag, okay?
His pump and dump, his biotech pump and dump was such a scandal.
Yeah, and he's going to save money, okay? Yeah. He's going to save money. So, and then you look at J.D. Vance's wife, another Brahmin, okay? Brahmins are the ones who are like this with the Zionists. They will never criticize the Zionists. Why? Politically, ideologically, they're the same fucking people. Same fucking people. Probably genetically the same, okay? And someone should do the research. It's a PhD project, but the Brahmins of India, Brahmanism, out of the 1.6 billion people, 0.00001% are Brahmins, Adam. But those people run India, no different than the Zionists who run the United States. And those people are now united. It is not unnatural to see fucking these other two Zionist scumbags, Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump, fly 10,000 miles to attend the wedding of Ambani, who is the big Zionist scumbag of India, okay? $150 million wedding he hosted.
So it's just like religion in the West, like a small number of chosen priest class control all the masses through a religion. It's basically what we have happening here as well.
Exactly. So they combine some religious ideology, some pictures of whatever, Christ, this, that, Shiva, you can put Brahma, blah, 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 get people excited. But fundamentally, it's a political ideology to justify why you should be getting paid $1 an hour and I can get paid $10 million an hour. You see? These political ideologies are done to brainwash people to accept their exploitation. That's what we need to understand. Ultimately, it's about power, profit, control. So anyway, I just wanted to share with you that one thread so people can understand that Elon fucking Musk is not for free speech. He has openly said free speech does not equal free reach. He knows about me. He knows that he continues a backdoor portal. And he does this for Zionism, and he does this for the swarm, period.
But he's completely aligned with Trump now. So, like, the pro-Trump people, as soon as he bought Twitter, the pro-Trump, the MAGA shills were the ones getting boosted and promoted and making all the money, and the other ones are don't get the same boosting. So it's like deboosting, shadow banning, suppressing their agenda. Of course he's doing that.
So, Adam, let's go to the second thread.
And hold on, and Rumble, too. Peter Thiel and Rumble, and I just learned the CEO of Rumble.
Yep.
CEO of Rumble says that Howard Lutnick, that's Trump's Cantor Fitzgerald transition team, he was right there with Trump at the Rebbe's grave at Chabad's headquarters in New York, just like Malay is going and visiting the Rebbe's grave. What do you think about that? Trump and the Messianic rabbis and the Christian Zionists and their end times prophecies. We're going to see a lot of that the next 4 years, don't you think?
Yeah, I think one of the things, this relates to the next topic I want to walk through people factually, is Israel is the center of all of election fraud globally. Mossad, and you can go do a little bit of research, they have all the tools, all the assets to do election fraud end to end. Milei was put into power there, right? In Argentina. This is not accidental, okay? Another Zionist hoodlum. And in fact, in his home, he has a picture of that same rabbi, okay? So if you follow these people through, it all roads lead to Israel. And everyone needs to recognize this. In 2020, separate thread. I mean, 2020 is quite
RFK, hold on, sorry to interrupt. RFK also went and visited the Rebbe's grave and was defending Chabad because Candace Owens said they were supremacist. And he says Palestinians are the most pandered. He's an ultra-Zionist. These anti-Zionist Trump grifters are all taking their wins and being placated. And they go, well, at least they're Christian. So, at least they're Christian and they're not the left, but they're ultra-Zionist, a cabinet full of Zionist fanatics. Even do you see the Department of the Secretary of Defense is like on video talking about wanting to rebuild the third temple, just like Malay did as well?
Yeah, I mean,
it's nuts.
Peter Hegseth stuff is. I mean, so I just walked. I hope everyone understands, Adam. I walked them through this backdoor portal. I discovered it in 2020. We got the word out, and there was active suppression of that news by Fucker Carlson, Glenn Greenwald, and then they did a limited hangout. Everyone see that pattern? You see what I'm saying? And now they're trying to act as though they stand for free speech. This is a big psyop. Let me go to psyop number 2.
Look at Elon about to buy InfoWars too. Did you see that? Speaking of like the Tucker, Alex Jones, Joe Rogan, you know, now Elon's going to bail out InfoWars. It's
the whole thing is they have recognized, and this is why people need to study system science. In system science, you understand that you create, the obvious piece, and then you create the not so obvious piece. You say, so all of these social media platforms, including Truth Social, Rumble, all of those, all the data is being fed right into Palantir. So Palantir right now can watch this conversation, look at all the people that are joining, create profiles as an instant, and probably watch in real time which of my messaging is working, and then send it over to Trump. Okay, so for example,
there was the head of Palantir bragged that they ran some operation like this to quell like a right-wing movement in Europe, I believe it was.
Yeah, it's a
you know what I'm talking about?
Yep, it's a classic. I forget where it was. I think Estonia. I forget where it was. It was one of those small. But the goal here is to always understand where the masses are moving. The commandment of the swarm is to make sure people never build a bottoms-up movement. So you watch what messages hit among them, hijack those messages, anoint your actors, and make sure they push it out and boost them, even at the anti-Zionist issue. So if you now talk about election fraud, so remember I talked about the ballot images, Adam. So I got heavily involved in understanding the ballot images, how they worked. I was teaching a class in our center here on November 5th, 2020. Guess who calls me? Gets my phone number, Mark Meadows. He was chief of staff for Trump. And I say, Mark, what's up? He goes, oh, Dr. Shiva, we really like the work you're doing. If people look between September to November, I was the one who was doing all this very deep mathematical analysis, exposing what happened in Michigan, what happened in all these different states. And those videos went viral. So I said, Mark, I said, if you give me all the data that the RNC has, I said, I can expose all the election fraud. He goes, okay, Dr. Shiva, we're going to get you that data. Remember, this is November 5th, when you have to move quickly, right? So then 2 days later, Rona McDaniel's office calls me because I'm like the election fraud rocket scientist doing all this work. I said, give me the data. Nothing. And then I did a tweet. You guys can go see. I read a letter to Biden and Trump, and a tweet, and I said, Dear President Biden, dear President Trump, I have unequivocal proof that election fraud takes place in the United States. Call me if you want to know how. Eric Trump then reaches out to me. Okay? And then Eric said, I said, Eric, no one's giving me the data. They claim they want to work with me. They're retweeting me. You see, right when they find, it's another technique, real bottoms-up people exposing their truth, they try to attach their coattails to them. So the masses say, oh, yeah, Trump is working with Dr. Shiva. Oh, yeah, the RNC is working with Dr. Shiva, just to get the credibility. But they never, ever gave me any data. Nothing. And what I uncovered through that entire process, the Arizona Secretary of State, the Senate hired me, and I didn't take any money, Adam. And what I found out was that the signature verification process is highly fraudulent. And I found out the ability they can flip votes on machines. That's when Mike Lindell starts calling me. And Mike starts putting me on his shows. And this is where the disinformation occurs. Mike starts talking about wackadoodle shit with a guy called Jeffrey Fulia, whose name is Jovan Pulitzer, who's a complete plant. This guy takes the election fraud stuff, but makes it, like you say, they start doing disinformation. Ooh, there's bamboos in the ballots, like crazy ass shit. That's not true. And he gets funded heavily, makes millions of dollars.
Didn't he lose a huge lawsuit against the one voting company? What's their name? Dominion.
Right. And
yeah.
then,
Tucker too. Tucker lost something to them also.
Yes.
Isn't that had something to do with why he was fired from Fox, right?
Well, let me tell you why he was fired. You have to understand there is what you see. They actually create fake martyrs, Adam. But let me just tell you that there are real election fraud issues. And I should write a book on this. But the first phase of election fraud begins who they give visibility to. How do you suddenly create a Vivek the Snake out of nowhere? Overnight, boom, we're going to put him on there, right? Who do you give visibility? Then who do you get on the ballots? I mean, we got on the ballot in nearly every state with less than $100,000, okay? They didn't think we would do it. The next thing is ballot access. After you get on the ballot, they deny you debate stage access, third level of election fraud. If you make it all over all those things, which is what I did in Massachusetts, Then what they do is they have the ability to manipulate the signature queuing and flip votes. And that's where Mossad is involved. Mossad does all of this. So all of this I uncovered, exposed.
Mossad has bragged, and it's been revealed also that they interview it in not just America, but in other countries around the world as well, with their bots and with tech and with all types of stuff.
Yeah, if you look at the work of James Borfman, who wrote in The Nation, he did quite a stellar piece of work. So when you tell this to magatards, they go, oh, yeah, elections are fraudulent. And I say, do you know? Because I did the work exposing that Trump's election was stolen, okay? And all the MAGA people loved me. I'm their fucking hero, right? But Mike Lindell and these other people took that information and they made it wackadoodle so the left could attack them. Do you see what I'm saying? They take real findings and they do disinformation. Now, so then you have to go back to 2016. As I was doing this research, Adam, I said, you know what? If elections are selections, that means Trump was also selected. And the MAGA people didn't want to hear that. There was significant amount of evidence that Hillary Clinton had that her election was stolen. And then she talked about it, and if you notice, then she went quiet. Nothing. And the reality was that Netanyahu in Israel was negotiating. And through Roger Stone, they negotiated with Trump. And this is all in the warrant that was released in a FOIA request that I think James Barfman did. I forget his last name. And what he found was that, remember when Roger Stone was taken from his house? There was a warrant issued. This is in Florida. In that warrant is details, the actual details of how Netanyahu, through an intermediary, was contacting Stone to negotiate with Stone to tell him, look, we will win the election for Trump if he does the following: move the embassy to Jerusalem and fuck up the Iran nuclear deal. And that's why Trump was put in. A deal was made with Israel. Israel did the election fraud for Trump. So if you believe elections are selections, and this was, as a scientist, Adam, I have to look at the facts, and I go with where the facts lead me. So Trump was anointed in 2016. Why? Because the American working class was done with Obama. Obama for 2 years printed $8 trillion. He said he was going to go against Wall Street. What did he do when the bank failures took place? He bailed out Wall Street. So the working people in this country were tired of Trump. And 57% of people voted for Obama, voted for Trump. Quite interesting. So Trump was anointed. Now they need a white guy. Okay? They need a white guy and they gave him Madison Avenue slogans: drain the swamp, which he didn't do; lock her up, which he didn't do. He locked up his own people, and they're still locked up. He didn't give them any type of financial legal assistance, nothing. Dirtbag. And
it was also like Israel's NSO group and Cambridge Analytica and a bunch of those companies helped try, and the consultants Birnbaum and Finkelstein, who also work with Likud and Netanyahu. And that's interesting what you said about Roger Stone being involved with the election, because I've covered an article from 2020. It's Times of Israel. Redacted FBI documents hints at Israeli efforts to help Trump win. Roger Stone, in a declassified email, said that with a guy in Jerusalem, said, if Trump is going to lose if we don't intervene. And it was Jerome Corsi, who was working with Alex Jones at the time, and Roger Stone.
Exactly. Corsi's just dangerous, man. Complete. So James Bamford, the Trump campaign's collusion with Israel, The Nation. Everyone should read that. Wonderful article, okay? And that article's buried. But the bottom line is, James Borfman, Bamford, okay? So James Bamford exposes, because he went and got the FOIA, and the Russia hoax, Mueller, was a hoax within a hoax. The Russia hoax was a this is how Mossad works.
A limited hangout focusing all on Russia and ignoring the Israel role.
To make Trump look like he was a martyr.
But I do think that there's a element of Israel and Russia that are working together.
No,
also.
Definitely. I agree with you, because the data that he got was from Russia. So Mossad got the information from Russia, and they helped the Trump campaign. Bottom line is, Trump would not have won the campaign if it was not for Israel. Israel anointed Trump. That's why he moved the embassy to Israel. So then, in my view, what did Trump do? So if you look at the election fraud, again, I was in the middle of all of this, Adam, and what I saw was Trump didn't want to do shit. Now, Trump used most of my information to send out emails, and he made $500 million. Okay? $500 million.
He raised on your election fraud information.
All that information. So in late 2022, I get an email from Mar-a-Lago inviting me to come meet with Trump.
Wow.
Okay? Now, you got to understand that I didn't just wear a fucking MAGA hat. I actually supported Trump. I put out 1,000 signs for him in the cold, right? I did all that work for nothing.
In 2020.
In 2020 and 2021, a lot of work. And most interesting, and people need to understand that there were these fake election fraud people, like you identified, these fake quote unquote anti-Zionists. And they were creating the disinformation. And I was going to expose one of them, this guy, Jeffrey Fulia, that's his name. And the night before, Patrick Byrne calls me up and he offers me $250,000 not to do it. And I said, are you trying to bribe me? A few weeks later, $50,000, and I may have it here, shows up in my account. And I found out he sent it to me. I return it. Most people wouldn't do that. You see, what I'm trying to say is they actually are creating fake election fraud, so the opposition can attack it. And to
so who was Byrne working for then, if he's offering you bribes?
I don't know who the fuck he's working for. Okay, but the bottom line is this: that I was in the middle of the backdoor portal to Twitter. They concealed my work. I was in the middle of the real election fraud work, all of it. And you can go see the analysis. It was like 3 fucking other PhDs I did, Adam. And the fake people come and they do the disinformation purposely so they can own it, because I'm not controlled. I'm not owned by any of them. You see, they don't want to give visibility to the guy who does the real work. Now, so what happened with the election fraud is I go to meet Trump. So first of all, Trump invites me, and we had I remember in 2021, I was thinking about running for governor, and the night before, Trump had endorsed a guy called Dirty Deal, Jeff Deal, in Massachusetts, who was part of conducting the election fraud against me. And so I had my assistant respectfully write to Trump, and 99.99, probably 100% of people would have gone and sucked off Trump's cock. Okay? We were, oh my God, I just got invited by Trump. So I had Michelle write a letter back, and I said, Dear President Trump, we respectfully decline to come. You endorse someone who conducted election fraud. You must, take that back. Anyway, all my MAGA friends are like, oh, Dr. Shiva, you're so critical. You're always too critical to people. Why don't you meet with Trump? He's playing fifth dimensional chess. You understand? He's got all this other shit going on.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was in Miami several weeks later, and I got another letter inviting me again. And I was a few miles away from Palm Beach, so I drove up. So it was a 2-hour meeting. And remember, I was fucking pissed at him. You have to understand, I've had the chance to meet some of the greatest, what you would call, quote unquote, high level people. So I'm not moved by this, but I go into Trump's room, and guess who's walking around? Susie fucking Wiles. Susie Wiles, who's now his chief of staff, was his handler, was the head of Ballard Communication. And Trump's in a little small room who looks very frail. I was quite surprised. He looked like an out-of-work actor in his back room. And during those 2 hours, it was always, oh my God, Dr. Shiva, you're the smartest man in the room. You're amazing. You went to MIT. My uncle went to, it was this outpouring of phrasing. And I said, you endorse a guy who's a fucking scumbag. He goes, oh, I don't know if he's a fucking, I go, yes, he is. I said, he conducted election fraud. He goes, oh, they did election fraud against me. He goes, what do you want? He goes, what do you want from me? I said, I want nothing. I said, what do you want from me? And then throughout that meeting, Trump would take little notes of my sound bites. And just right after he got into office, shatter the swarm is something, it's a very powerful slogan. If you notice, Trump started saying, shatter the deep state, shatter the censorship regime. I put out a tweet, I said, if you're going to use my stuff, then you should shatter yourself, because the censorship regime was created by you. So it was a fascinating meeting in the sense that I left that meeting, and Michelle was with me, my significant other. I got to tell you, man, we felt like this guy has no fucking friends. Like, no one really cares about him. Everything is a monetary relationship. He signed some MAGA hats, and as we left, through that little rotunda they have, and then his assistant Molly comes running. He goes, he was very impressed by you, and he wants to give you this gift. It is only what he gives to heads of state. So what I learned was, here's a guy who's.
What was the gift? Did he give it to you?
Yeah, it was this big. I have it in my house. It's this big, silver, with a seal. What is it? what are these plates, you know?
A metal? Okay, a plate.
Yeah. So the point is that, and he kept asking me, what do you want? You know, I should publish the notes from this at some point. So 3 weeks later, I said, you know what I want? I want to really stop election fraud in this country. So I wrote to him and I said, look, let's have a follow-up meeting. I just want maybe half an hour of your time, and I'm going to give you a proposal. And so remember, he made $500 million fucking dollars. $500 million fucking dollars he raised using my fucking material. And when I'm returning back money to fucking Patrick Byrne, who tried to buy me out to not attack these fake guys. So I said, look, we need to have an election integrity institute, a real institute. I said, the opposition has MIT, Harvard, the Belfer School. Anytime you talk about election fraud, they write these scholarly papers attacking you. I said, look, I'm a PhD. I will put together a team. And I gave him 5 slides. I said, this is what we need to do. Susie Wiles is in the back, and he's sort of signaling to her. She must have been saying, don't do it. And then Trump did nothing. He diverted me to random fucking idiots, didn't want to do anything. Now, a recent book came out saying, what happened to that $500 million? He only spent $9 million of that $500 million, Adam. What happened to the other $491 million? Okay? That's election fraud. So if you want to talk about election fraud, I know how to solve it. Elon Musk, Johnny come fucking lately, it's all bullshit. They have no intention to solve it. And you notice election fraud has disappeared now. There's no election fraud now when Trump wins. There's no election fraud. There's no fucking election fraud. They talk a little bit about here and there, but there's no election fraud. He won fair and square. And this brings me down to the issue that we talked about. The Democratic Party was branded as a party of the working people, right? But they have consistently sold out the working people. And what you saw on November 5th was a total consolidation of Democrats and Republicans and all the obvious and not so obvious establishment as one unit. And that's the answer to why they put Pete Hegseth in, why they put this guy Zeldin in. Look at it, the most right-wing ultra-Zionists on this hand. And over here, the fake fighters. Tulsi Gabbard, right?
And RFK.
And let me finish with RFK, because I know that motherfucker really well. I know him very well, because when I was married to Fran Drescher, when I lived out in Hollywood, I used to be invited to his events. All right? This guy, his entire family, all these, oh my God, the JFK files. Fuck the JFK files. You're talking about one wing of the swarm is a mobster against another wing of the swarm. We as working people shouldn't care how these people were knocked out, okay? JFK is the one who created the 1962 Vaccination Act. He's the one who created it. He's the one who signed it into law. After measles had gone down to 99%, 98% of measles was gone. In 1963, they create the measles vaccine when measles was actually gone because it had to do with hygiene, all right? So it was John Kennedy who signed the 1962 Vaccination Act. That's what needs to be repealed. And then, so that's 1962.
He also wrote a book with the ADL too. Did you know that?
Yep. And go look at his speech that he gave in 1960 saying we're all behind Israel. So there's some fools, and I think they're plants, saying, oh my God, Israel was against him. He was against Vietnam. He was against his bullshit. This is all Kennedy bullshit, fake martyr propaganda.
There's a lot of Q stuff surrounding QAnon conspiracies around the Kennedys as well. And you mentioned 5D chess. Can I ask, what do you think of like the online? It's like we're never going to get anywhere against the establishment when you have so many kooky theories like the QAnon and the flat Earth and all of the Christian lunacy and denying evolution and everything's a lie, right? What do you think of QAnon and all that?
So what's happened, it's complete nonsense. I remember when I was running for campaign, I didn't even know there's like this guy Nino Rodriguez or something. He was like this big QAnon guy. And I'm saying, what the fuck are you talking about? I said, you're talking nonsense. And I said, you guys are just making up shit. All right, it has nothing to, the reality is, look at what Trump's done. In fact, after I met with Trump, another crazy guy, Lynn Wood, said, are you sure you met with Trump? Are you sure that was him? I go, Lynn.
The real Trump?
Yeah,
is that what he meant?
I go, Lynn, fucking stop it. You're speculating. He goes, oh, maybe I'm wrong. So bottom line is, you see, the problem they have, Adam, is I know all this, not dirt, but I know what the reality is, be it the election fraud, the backdoor portal. That's why I think the forces of people who get this must unite and build a bottoms-up movement. Now, let me finish up with Fauci and RFK. So it was John Kennedy, who signed into law the 1962 Vaccination Act, which created all the aspects of the CDC and the FDA, all of that corruption, all of that institutions. 24 years later, his other, by the way, let me just give you a sidelight on John F. Kennedy, so you smash all this mythos. One of our volunteers in our campaign, her father was Kennedy's roommate at the Winthrop House in Harvard. His roommate. And he came in from, working class backgrounds to go to Harvard. John F. Kennedy, okay? He said Kennedy never went to class, had every fucking STD you can imagine.
Wasn't he a coke dealer? I've heard that.
No, that's RFK. I'm talking about JFK. I'm talking about John F. Kennedy. Was the roommate of the father of a friend of ours, okay? And she said how disgusting John F. Kennedy was. Disgusting human being, but would always get A's. How do you fucking get A's? Never going to class and banging everyone you saw. That was John Kennedy, and he was never allowed to be in the Navy. Joe Kennedy's father got him in the Navy. And by the way, when he got in the Navy, John F. Kennedy was reckless. He would drive these boats like crazy, just do a little bit of work. And when he crashed the PT-109, whatever that incident, they made him a hero when he was fucking reckless. Rewrote his whole story, write him a book, Profiles in Courage. And everyone knows the election was stolen from Nixon, right? By the Daily Machine in Chicago. If people watch the movie Nixon, you'll see it's a very interesting scene in the movie. Spiro Agnew goes to Nixon. He goes, Dick, they stole that election from you fair and square. The Kennedys stole that election from you fair and square. So anyway, so please get over all your mythos of John F. Kennedy. I was brought up on that shit. In India, every village has a picture of John F. Kennedy, So this shit is PR, and that's what the Kennedys are good at. But so 24 years later, after the 1962 Vaccination Act, it was Ted fucking Kennedy on the Senate side who sponsored the bill to create the 1986 National Vaccine Injury Program, which was all these people were getting injured, Adam, and they were suing. They were suing pharma companies, and they were going to get millions of dollars in settlements. Big Pharma came crying to Congress. Congress retroactively passes the 1986 Vaccination Act, giving all the pharma companies indemnity. Who did that? Another fucking Kennedy, the same Kennedy who killed Mary Jo Kopechne right here. All right, in Massachusetts, who fucking drowned her, left her to die for 22 fucking hours and got to still be senator. So am I the only one who has to call out the fucking Kennedys? Now you have Booby fucking Kennedy. Now, Booby Kennedy's a fucking heroin addict. Yeah, he knows a lot about health. He knows how to find a vein to shoot up heroin. When he got into Harvard, he gloated, I just have to put my name Kennedy. He's a fucking plagiarist. He has sent his people to my campaign, literally stole word for word my speeches, Adam, and replicated it. Word for fucking word. All right? Kennedy, complete fucking fool. Reckless motherfucker. In Harvard, his roommate wrote his senior thesis. Go do some research. He couldn't write shit. He was fucking selling coke, like you said. And wrote his thesis, so he won the thesis award. See, the Kennedys are all about acting like they're intellectuals.
He was on Epstein's plane as well.
He was on Epstein's plane multiple times, okay? He banged 38 women, wrote a diary of it, and when his wife found out, she hung herself. In fact, there's stories people should research, like she was actually holding the noose like this. Did she actually hang herself? After he buried her in the Kennedy plot, over his casket, praying for her, with news media seeing this, the next day, Adam, they dug up her grave, his wife's grave, and they moved it to an unmarked grave. Did you know this? So this is Booby fucking Kennedy. Now, Booby fucking Kennedy remember, the Kennedys have to brand themselves as they're fighters for the people. So what did they do? They had to take this fool, Booby fucking Kennedy, and put a face on him, right? Sounds like Darth Sith, the guy. Looks like fucking Darth Sith, from Star Wars. So
on TRT.
Yeah, on TRT. So he's taking TRT steroids. He's chewing, taking, pure nicotine crystals after his wife found out that he was banging a woman, right? This guy, and now he's also eating McDonald's, and people are like, Booby looks like he doesn't like it. No, that shit-eating grinny on his face is how he always looks.
Yeah, what is this? They literally had hats make America healthy again, and they're seen here eating McDonald's. What is this? Like, these guys are all billionaires. They're eating McDonald's? Like,
but hold that picture.
What is happening? Is this just like a corporate ad, or does Trump have a brand deal with McDonald's?
What it is, Adam, it's worse than that. It is spitting on the faces of the ordinary American people. It is saying, you will eat this shit, and we eat it, right? I mean, go to John George's, one of Trump's restaurants in Trump Towers, right? It's all organic food. And then you have this demon, pure demon, right? You just put his face, Mike Johnson, who's the one who wants to equate. He wants to throw people in jail for anti-Semitism. He wants to equate anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism. By the way, he's following the executive order that Trump filed in 2016. So in December 2023, he passed that edict in Congress, which was voted near unanimously.
Yeah, with the IHRA and the Department of Education stuff. Yeah, they solidified Trump's executive order.
Right. So you have a Christian fucking Zionist, scroll down.
To this Rapture End Times fanatic, John Hagee pastor.
Right. Then you have this shit-eating brainworms motherfucker and stupid fucking RFK cocksuckers. All these women want to still suck his cock. Oh, he looks unhappy. No, that's how he always looks. That's the ugly fucking face he has, because he has no fucking soul, this guy. All right. So what they did for Booby is, after he got caught with heroin, right, there's Coca-Cola. Yeah, Coke. And I can do, we can go through every chemical in there. He's going to remove toxins. And the stupid Q people and the stupid magatards, oh, Booby's doing this, right? But what this is spitting in the American people's face, who basically can't afford food. So they're telling them, go eat McDonald's. The good food will be for us elites, but yeah, we eat McDonald's.
The goy slop, that's what we call it
exactly.
sometimes. Goy slop.
That's what this is. This is an ad to spit on the American people, to the working people of this country. That's what this is. And everyone needs to really look at this picture. It is a big fuck you. And look at this. You have a Christian, ultra-Christian Zionist to supposedly a medical freedom guy who bangs every fucking woman he comes across. And he's right there with a Christian Zionist, next to a guy who kills animals for fun, his son, Donald Trump Jr., next to Trump, who's just fucking a fool. He has no friends, I can tell you this. And then you have this other fool who's had so much, both of them have so much fucking plastic surgery. It'd be really interesting to see what Elon Musk really looks like. These guys actually spend probably $2 million, $100,000 to $2 million a month on their fucking health.
Did you hear the right before the election they released some Epstein tapes where he said he was best friends with Trump for 10 years? He said he had a forehead reduction surgery or something to pull, facelift and pull the hairline down. He said Trump had that.
Yeah, and then how much surgery has Elon had? Go look at him. He wanted to be on the front of Rolling Stones. Elon Musk, look, I can tell you as an engineer, cannot write any fucking code. Go look at his X.com that he started. Fucking failure. His father had to hire programmers to fix the code, and then Peter Thiel brought the company from him to save his ass. That was PayPal, and then they sold it to Pierre, what's his name?
Omidyar,
who was the one who funded the backdoor portal for Twitter.
Yeah, the Silicon Valley a big sponsor of ADL also, which is Indian. Is he Indian or Iranian?
No, I think he's Iranian, but
yeah,
Iranian
that's right.
Are Persians who are probably North Indians nowadays. But the point is this.
Aryans, sure.
I think you should zoom back out at this picture. So when you look at this picture, this is what has occurred. The total consolidation of the swarm. And idiots are thinking Kennedy. So let's get back to Kennedy. So here's Booby fucking Kennedy. He's a heroin addict, and people should go look at this. So they decided they needed to reface him. And we should talk about Joe Rogan too. So they reface Booby fucking Kennedy, and they reface him by saying he's going to be a fighter for the environment. There was a woman, and I went to one of his events in Aspen, okay? There was a woman who actually ran a group called Water Keepers, who was actually trying to get toxins out of the water. So what Kennedys do is they always find real people, bottoms up, doing real good work, and they come in and they hijack their organizations. So Kennedy becomes a front man for Water Keepers. Okay, he didn't do any of the work. That was his brand building, Adam. All right. Then when it comes to thimerosal linked to vaccines, Mark Blaxell, one of the biggest pharma guys, who's a pharma consultant who lives in Cambridge next to Bill Weld, is the one who did the original link, which is really not that great of a link. Okay, and then brings Kennedy into it. And remember, Kennedy's organization Kennedy has said, and I put out that video if you saw. You can see it on my tweet feed, quote unquote. He says, I believe in full vaccination of all Americans.
Yeah, I saw that clip going around.
Okay. And I found that
he's had some really like extreme left-wing positions as well.
On climate. He's completely for climate change and carbon taxation. Okay. So Booby fucking Kennedy doesn't know jack shit about anything. He reads a script. He comes in there, and you can read that. Maybe you want to play people that video right now, Adam.
Sure. Yeah. It's 20 seconds. We can play it.
Yeah. Play it.
Here, let me do this so you can hear it, though. I just got to share my audio real quick for you.
Share the audio. Yeah.
There you go.
I want everyone to listen to this. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Is this? Oh.
Minister Farrakhan has asked me to address the issue of vaccines and African American and vaccine safety. I want to start out by saying this, and I want to say it emphatically. I am pro-vaccine. I have always been fiercely pro-vaccine. I had all 6 of my children vaccinated, and I believe that we ought to have policies that encourage full vaccination for all Americans. Minister Farrakhan is...
It's good to play full vaccination of all Americans. So think about that. John F. Kennedy installed the 1962 Vaccination Act. Then the other brother, Ted Kennedy, indemnified all the pharma fucking companies. Yeah. So you cannot sue pharma companies.
He seems like the pharma cover-up swamp, and all the MAGA thinks that he's getting put in to save us from the pharmaceutical companies.
Yes. So you got to understand. I know these guys, okay? I went to his brother's home in Malibu, right? When he had saw the girl. So I was in this realm, okay? Mm-hmm. And when in 2019, Adam, I was invited by the National Science Foundation. I'm considered one of the leading guys on the immune system on the science side. Mm-hmm. NSF invites one speaker every year to one of their centers to give what's called a prestige talk. So I gave in 2019 the talk on the immune system. It was a new theory I have of the immune system. And the fact is that ultimately health is a function of boosting your immune system, okay? And it's far different than just a 2-box model of giving a vaccine to boost up immunity. There's many other subsystems we have, your gut microbiome, all this stuff. Anyway, that was 2019. So when COVID hit, and I was doing many, many protests in 2019 fighting against vaccine mandates, general vaccine mandates. So when COVID hit on January 2020, I was the one who ran the biggest demonstration. My original hometown is New Jersey, in Trenton, New Jersey. And 5,000 mothers showed up. I, as the MIT scientist, said, this is bullshit. We must stop the vaccine mandate bill. Booby Kennedy and this other fool, Del Bigtree, come. Okay? I drove from here with my sound system everywhere. They come with nothing, with their big SUVs. And Booby tells the audience that Dr. Shiva is going to derail my attempt to stop this bill by negotiating with the Democrats.
Who said that again? Who said that?
Kennedy.
Bigtree. Oh, Kennedy.
No,
okay.
Kennedy. Mm-hmm. So meanwhile, because I've run demonstrations and I know the power of bottoms-up movements, we scared the shit out of those Congress people and they tabled a bill. That was a big victory for our movement, not Kennedy. Kennedy, obviously, and Bigtree tried to take credit for it later. But the point is, I saw him trying to derail the movement right there in front of my face. So as I started connecting the dots on Kennedy with Mark Blaxall, one of his guys who worked for him, very interesting epidemiologist, is one who gave me that video. He goes, Bobby's for full vaccination of all Americans. I go, what? And he sent me that video. In that video, if you listen to the whole of it, people say, oh, that's just a small video that Dr. Shiva picked up. Then this is the triple demon Kennedy. I'm for full vaccination. Then he says, I'm going to create safe vaccines. How are you going to do that? If you listen to the video, I'm going to get the CDC and the FDA to change their ways.
Trump was just bragging about the vaccine in Operation Warp Speed today on Twitter, I believe everybody was talking about.
Exactly. So the checkmate they're going to do is Booby got safe vaccines done. Pharma is great. Booby gets the Nobel Prize in medicine with whatever, right? So that's the end game. Right? We're going to remove a little bit of toxins out here and there.
Alex Jones said, Trump's coming out with the vaccine because it's the good vaccine. He wants to get it out to compete with the bad vaccine. That was literally what Alex Jones said.
And the reason I will no longer go on Alex Jones' show is he tried to fuck with me. Okay? Alex would have me on his show. And if you remember at the beginning of 2020, and everyone can go look at it, I was the one in March of 2020 wrote a letter to Trump. I said, do not lock down the country. As an MIT scientist, I said, you need to get rid of Fauci. We live in the world of personalized and precision medicine. I gave a protocol, step by step, vitamin D3, vitamin C. I said, take the people who are really sick, give them high dose vitamin D. I just got a call today from a guy. He said, Dr. Shiva, you saved my fucking life because you gave me 50,000 IUs of vitamin D3 you told me to take. Anyway, we gave a protocol. We told Trump not to do it. And Marla Maples, at that time, she called me up. Oh, Dr. Shiva, I love you. Let's do a podcast together. Tiffany and I like you. She delivered that letter personally to Trump. The White House called me, and I said, you got to get rid of fucking Fauci. I said, he's not a scientist. I said, he's full of shit. Trump didn't do anything. Mm-hmm. Kennedy in 2020 was saying lockdowns are good. They're going to protect the climate. I'm the only one who came out first, said, don't do lockdowns, fire fucking Fauci. In fact, Adam, with our old school bus there, we collected 128,000 signatures online, and I ran the hashtag Fire Fauci campaign.
I saw it on your Wikipedia.
Yes, we fucking did that. Rand Paul waited a year to use that to raise money. Kennedy took all of my videos, the actual expose of Fauci, and I should fucking probably sue him, had a ghostwriter then write the book about Anthony Fauci. You see what they do? They watch which way the wind blows.
Well, you mentioned you had a protocol, too, that reminded me of the Zelenko protocol. He was the one that I saw boosted everywhere.
Zelenko stole my protocol. I gave it away for free. I gave it away for free. Probably saved about 100 million people's lives. It went viral. I gave it away for free. That fucking Zionist motherfucker stole it. Okay?
And he died, and now the guys running it are the people behind the wellness company. Are you familiar with Amazing Polly and her exposing the wellness company?
Yep,
them and Rumble and
Mercola, all of these people. Okay? So in 2020, once I figured this shit out, and remember, Adam, this is at the height of my quote unquote popularity, meaning people saying, oh my God, an MIT PhD standing up. I would do seminars. And then I said, fucking Kennedy's full of shit. And me and my assistant, Jen Bennett, and Jen had followed Kennedy, and we're like, Kennedy's full of shit. And she goes, we got to expose him. And I did video after video after video exposing him. I lost 20 to 30% of my followers. All these women in Scarsdale, these wealthy Zionists who want to suck off Kennedy and want to probably suck his balls off all day long and give him a shitload of money. We're like, oh my God, Dr. Shiva, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? You and Bobby should work together. I said, I don't play that game. He's full of shit. So I've had many opportunities, Adam, to sell out. You see, the meeting I had with Trump, right? On the election fraud stuff, right? On the backdoor portal to Twitter, right? Strike the deal. Go back on Twitter. Be the hero. And with Kennedy, I could have linked arms and arms with him, and I'd probably be in the fucking White House right now with him. But the bottom line is Kennedy is a fucking setup. And what he wants to do is full vaccination of all Americans. The motherfucker vaccinated all his kids. If you're against vaccines, why would you do that? Did you suddenly come across this finding? And how are you going to create safe vaccines? How are you going to create safe vaccines? And whatever it's going to do, it's going to be a bullshit move. So in January of 2020, I ran the first International Immune Health Conference here in my building. 700 people showed up. Kennedy sent his lawyer, Aaron Siri, to the meeting. Aaron says, wow, Dr. Shiva, you have technology, because I created technology, Adam, that can model molecular pathways, because you could create safe vaccines. I go, what did you just say? He goes, oh, don't tell anyone. I said, I'm not going to do that, Adam. It's all bullshit. I said, I'm not going to work for Big Pharma. So anyway, I start attacking Kennedy. Video after video after video. Kennedy then puts a blog post up, and he calls me. I'm splintering the anti-vax movement. I am friends with Bill Gates, he says. I am friends with the Clintons, and I run a vaccine company. I saw the Kennedy propaganda machine. I was destroying his bullshit.
I saw on your Wikipedia you've sued a few, like I think it was Gawker and some others, which I think's awesome, suing for defamation. There's a lot of people I wish I could sue. Was that not a defamation lawsuit for him to say that stuff?
Yes, he did, and we sued him. I won the Gawker lawsuit, by the way. They had to remove those articles clearly saying I am the inventor of email. With Kennedy, he kept evading service. I sued him for $92 million. He'd run here, run there, and he's a lawyer. He's supposed to accept service, right? It's the most unethical thing you can do. And my own lawyer filed the service wrong in another way. So I have to redo that lawsuit, you see? Because everyone in Boston loved the fucking Kennedys. My point is, booby fucking Kennedy said that that I have a partnership with Bill Gates. Because I have a tech company that we get 10% off for buying Microsoft Office in bulk. He said, I have a partnership.
Yeah, I guess I use PC also in Windows. I guess I'm a Bill Gates agent.
So what I'm saying is, You see, Kennedy is he's the most evil. You look at his physiognomy, you look at how he behaves. And I think if you believe in whatever you want to believe in, I think these people, essence reveals it. Okay.
What do you think about, he said this on video that the COVID-19 didn't get Jewish people. Jewish people weren't susceptible to it.
It could be, different things. But my point is that, you see, he's learning how to troll people now. Okay. That's what he's doing. So he'll say anything to act like he's fighting against the establishment.
This was trying to get him to boost his legitimacy that he's gonna.
Exactly.
Okay.
So what you have going on.
This is like throwing a bone to the conspiracy people online.
Exactly.
Okay, that's interesting.
But the bottom line is, look at his family's legacy. 1962 Vaccination Act, 1986 indemnified Big Pharma. Where is this going? It's going to whitewash Big Pharma. That's what they do. They don't. And so if you look at this entire process, Adam, that's why I'm glad we're talking. I've been in the fucking center of this, man. The actual guy did the work.
I didn't know you ever met Trump.
2 meetings. 2 meetings. You will see in big rallies. There's one rally with 50, 60,000 people that goes, I want to thank the great computer scientist, Dr. Shiva. You see, when independent people like ourselves do great work, they can't control us. So the first thing is they hitch their wagon to us to think if they can bring us over. I can't tell you how many calls I've had. Why aren't you working with Trump? Why aren't you working with Trump? I think people need to understand, Adam, I never forgot where I fucking came from, man. The caste system, working class people in New Jersey. When I went back to India in 2009 to do research on traditional medicines, I was recruited by the Prime Minister of India to run the largest innovation center in India. Given a huge home, I would have become Science Minister of India. I exposed corruption when a building burned down when my boss was taking millions of dollars in embezzlement money from the Chatterjee Soros Fund. My own father-in-law at the time said, Shiva, why don't you shut the fuck up? You'll become Minister of Science. That's not me, Adam. It's not my fucking nature. I had to leave India under death threats and wrote an article exposing the entire Indian government. So wherever I go, because of my, achievements, I have always risen to a level where I hit the ceiling because I'm not corrupt, Adam. I can't be corrupted. So I could be in the Trump administration. I could be in the Indian government. I could be a professor at MIT, but I choose not to go there because the amount of price you have to pay if you actually care about the 8 billion of us, I can't do it, Adam, because I never forgot where I came from. And that's the flaw within me, which is unfortunate for them. And so to guys like you and to everyone out there, the only way out of it is, when we ran our campaign, see what that says? It says, save yourself. Write in Dr. Shiva. And
only Jesus can save us. Or Trump. We have to wait for our savior.
Exactly. And we put out tens of millions of these cards. It says they're killing you, and it says shatter the swarm. The cost of living is going up and lifespan is coming down. And then we invite people, Adam, to go and watch Shatter the Swarm, which is a 15-minute video, which took me 50 years to do. It teaches people system science, but in an accessible way. The only way out of this, Adam, is offline. Fucking offline. I'll go out and I'll distribute these cards in the morning at the train station. The future is fucking offline. They have, as a guy who invented email, as a guy who invents technology, I can tell you this, that technology, whenever it comes at any point in human history, we always think it's going to help us, Adam. And there's always a promise of technology, like the printing press. And eventually it gets consolidated. A few people own it. The internet came. I wrote a book called Arts and the Internet. It was this idealistic view, because I do a lot of art. I have a design degree. And I said, wow, the internet would help a lot of my friends, musicians and artists, go direct without the need for an Ari Emanuel to, give them a blowjob, right? And what ended up happening is now we consolidated the internet into 3 or 4 platforms: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, etc. So technology comes with its promise, but those in power, top down, own it. And now with AI, man, they could figure out like that who to take out, and they could give the illusion of free speech. I mean, my 335,000 followers have stayed like this. Yeah. I mean, come on, man. It's fucking bullshit.
Yeah. So much of it's botted too. Elon said he was going to get rid of the bots, but Israeli bots just got busted, and they're not the only ones that do it, but some Israeli bots just got busted just recently in the news.
Elon is the deep state. Elon is Mossad. Elon is the swarm. Where Elon Musk begins and government ends, nobody knows. He's the epitome of state capitalism. You know, he got a grant for $2 billion to put up, people may not know what a mesh network is. A mesh network is a series of computing devices that are meshed together, an internet. Elon Musk just got a $2 billion Pentagon for creating surveillance using those mesh networks. That's just using, you know, fiber for communication. The satellites up there right now, in 1984, I had a friend of mine at MIT, he was showing me a lens that could read a dime. This is 1984. Now, from space, you can read an entire iPhone. You can do everything. So the incredible amount of surveillance that is now outsourced to public companies. So if a public company, you're on Starlink, and Starlink decides to throw you off, well, they decided to throw you off. They have their First Amendment rights. This is why the solution is, Adam, this is not a communist solution or a socialist solution. It is the only solution of we, the people, rising up, bottoms up. We must go offline, but we must understand this dynamic of how the elites do this with the obvious and the not so obvious establishment. We must understand history. That's why, you know, I've created many technologies, but the one I'm most proud of is Truth Freedom Health. You can go to truthfreedomhealth.com. It teaches people what I used to teach at MIT to 50 students. And I used to teach a course on system science, the most, you know, popular elective. We have to teach people system science. It's what Soros uses. It's what Brzezinski uses. This is how the few control the many. They understand the dynamics of control. They understand the control mechanisms. They understand how to create disturbances, but to always manipulate people back into them. That's the goal. So they'll create a Tulsi Gabbard, and they have a farm league of these not so NSOEs. Vivek the Snake, overnight, created overnight. And they have a farm league of these people that they will promote, push, so you think they're going to do something. But when you look at their actions, look at what Trump fundamentally did. He anointed a fucking Christian evangelical nut job as its Secretary of Defense, who, what you said, wants to, you know, rebuild back the temple. You got fucking Mike Johnson. You got Tulsi Gabbard.
They all want war with Iran as well. You think we're going to see a big war with Iran and possibly Russia? They're talking about they're about to do the long-range missiles into Russia right now, and they're declaring war against us.
So you know, Russia is a little bit hard for me to figure out because 1.5 million Russians are in Israel, right? It's a little bit of a, you know, I'm still processing Russia. But
they definitely want they want a war between us and Iran and Russia, and it looks like we're on the verge of that unless Trump comes in. And it was reported that Elon was talking to officials from Iran the other day as well.
Yeah, but this is with the tweet I put. I said Ukraine and Iran are the pawns in a chess game planned a long time ago by the swarm to draw Russia into a two-front war. The only possible way to pillage Russia's $75 trillion in natural resources. A big real estate return on investment calculus. That's what this is. Look at all these guys. Jared Kushner, fucking real estate nut job. When he was going to Harvard here, you know, which, you know, his father got him in, right? He was running slum. He was a slumlord here in Somerville, Massachusetts, right? Genocide is another way to get real estate with no money down. That's what this is. Genocide is a way to get real estate with no money down. So this is big real estate deals at the levels that we can't even imagine, Adam, trillions of dollars. So in 1976 or 78, Brzezinski, who was a foreign secretary to the neoliberal Jimmy Carter, that's when all of this machination started in the 70s, left and right coming together. He's the one who laid out a plan to atomize Russia, to split up Russia into three regions, the Eurasia region, the Siberian region, and the Far East. And they said, we must destroy Russia with a World War III. We must destroy it because they're uncontrollable. They're independent. You say they cannot have independent people. So from starting in the mid-70s to today has been the exercising of that policy. So Reagan comes in. He brings in Gorbachev, who is an agent of the United States. They drive the Soviet Union in an arms race to blow up the Soviet Union. Soviet Union gets broken up. Then Bush comes in, tells Gorbachev, we will never move 1 inch east of Germany, right? With NATO. Well, they moved fully east of Germany. They took all those Eastern European countries in. If you think about Russia, $75 trillion worth of natural resources, nearly 100 quadrillion cubic feet of natural gas, 50% of the diamonds, you can keep going on and on and on. Russia's ruble is backed by natural resources. The United States used to be backed by gold, then the petrodollar, now it's backed by aircraft carriers. The US monetary system is not backed by anything. So they need real estate. So in my view, they struck a deal. Greater Israel over here, you get that real estate, and in return for that, have a two-front war, because you cannot defeat Russia, as history shows. Ask Napoleon.
I think there's not going to be a war with Russia initially. I think Trump's going to get in, and even Zelensky says he thinks the war is going to end. So they're going to negotiate, give up some land. Trump's going to force them into a deal, and then they're going to focus on Iran and Gaza.
Yeah, we don't know how this is going to play out, but the reality is that they've moved significant amounts of weaponry into the Middle East out of Ukraine. That's what Biden has done. And Biden and Trump are working hand in glove. You know Hunter Biden is going to be pardoned, okay? And Trump's already said that, right? I will consider that. So,
yeah, he just said he's not coming for retribution, which is funny. He promised retribution, and now he's literally saying he's not going to get retribution. They fell for it again with like the Hillary will be in prison, and then he gets elected and goes, "Oh, I was just saying that."
Well, look at all these guys were part of the Democratic Party. All these, if you've been to New York and you go to the restaurants and the places these guys go, you will see it's a very finite cabal. One restaurant in Malibu, Nobu, where all of them hang out. 3 or 4 restaurants in New York, Columbus Circle, where they all hang out. I don't think the average person has any idea, and I was given many, many glimpses of this, how well these people are connected. They're all very close friends. The tentacles they have, their friends, their daughters go to the same equestrian places, right? Very, very close people, okay? So the main thing, Adam, is that we need to build a bottoms-up movement, and that's what the real goal is. That's what my life has been focused on. Mobilizing people to build a bottoms-up movement by raising their consciousness. But one of the ways to raise their consciousness is people must understand system science, which came out in the 1920s. George Soros is considered one of the biggest theoreticians on reflexivity theory. So system science is how the few can control the many, using control systems engineering principles. It's how your thermostat works, right? It's how an autopilot works. And they do that in mass right now. And the inputs to the social systems are messaging, right? Whoops, I see, an airplane's going off course. What do? You adjust the speed and the ailerons, right? Oops, the masses are watching a lot of Adam Green and Dr. Shiva. I got to bring them back. Okay, they call up Sheikh Suleiman, or they call up Jake Shields, or they call up fucking Jackson Hinkle. Hey, speak some anti-Zionist shit, okay? Put up a bunch of dead babies. Make it sound good, right? But never, ever whisper Dr. Shiva's name, who's fucking running for president. Never even direct people over there. Keep people stuck to you thinking you're going to do some shit, but you never fucking do anything. That's the game. They have enough of their agents at all different levels, some willing, some useful idiots, but the goal is to put the messaging out there. Those are the inputs, Adam, as we say in controls theory, right? Things going off direction, you change the fuel. So that's that's the goal of Palantir. So in a control system, as I teach at Truth, Freedom, Health, you have a goal, you have a place where the system is right now, right? And then you sense where it's going, and then you make decisions on what inputs you're doing. So over the last 2 years, they said, holy shit, 2020, this guy is exposing election fraud. This guy's exposing, Fauci. You can't have one fucking guy own this. Booby, Elon, fucker. And by the way, fucker Carlson is so full of shit. You know why he got fired from Fox News, right? Go look at what he did. Okay, if you file a defamation case, this is a little bit of law. So Adam, let's say you're a public figure, okay? And you could be assumed to be a public figure, a limited public figure. Definitely Trump is a
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay? No, but what I'm saying is limited meaning depending on if you're running for office, it's definitive, right? But if someone is just an average citizen, they're not a public figure. But public figures have a much higher threshold that you have to choose to show. So you have public figure, limited public figure, and ordinary citizen, okay? Even limited public figures and public figures have thresholds to show that if I say, like, Adam kicks his dog all the time, and it's absolutely not true, right? You would have to show that I did it knowingly that was false, okay? So if Trump runs, they could say, oh, Trump bangs dogs. Well, that could be considered he's a public figure. Trump would have to show, like he would have to send me a cease and desist letter, say, Dr. Shiva, I don't bang dogs. In fact, here are all the dogs, and I have testimony that I didn't bang them, okay? And if I still continue doing that, then that would be considered malicious, malice. So not only do you have to prove that the facts are wrong, but then you have to prove malice as a public figure, okay? You have to prove these two levels. Okay, so now let's go back to Fucker Carlson and Dominion. Dominion is considered a public figure because they're a publicly traded company, okay? Because in US corporate law, a corporation is a person. So here Dominion was attacked by Fucker Carlson, right? Now remember, prior to Fucker Carlson talking about election fraud, he was sending text messages. And I have many people who know him, and he said Trump's an idiot. There's no election fraud. There's no election fraud. This is stupid.
Yeah, he said it was reported he said he was like tired of talking about Trump. He hoped Trump disappears or something.
Yeah, exactly. And I can introduce you to people who would talk to Fucker every day, and he hated Trump, okay? But he's part of Fox getting his 20 plus million in revenue and probably bonuses based on viewership, et cetera, okay? So Fucker was texting that there is no election fraud, text messages. So think about it. In his view, there is no election fraud. Then he sees the explosive uptake of MAGA watching videos like mine showing the real election fraud. Fox is losing viewers because people are losing credibility in Fox. So now Fucker Carlson decides to talk about election fraud because he needs views and clicks. So the reason Fucker was fired was because they had those text messages from a legitimate level. Because Dominion, when they sued Fox, Fox could have actually won that lawsuit had it not been for Fucker's text messages. Because Dominion has to prove that not only was it wrong, but they knew it was wrong, which is malicious. That's why Fucker was let go. Because what he did was, that makes it malicious, okay? And then he starts talking about UFOs and hanging out with, getting
attacked by demons. That was the viral video the other day. Yeah. Demons attacking him in bed.
Yeah,
to promote Christianity too. Now he's some like newborn, like Russell Brand or something. Shit.
Yeah, all those guys become suddenly Christians. So that's what's going on. So I think I've sort of given you guys enough to understand that the reason, we have a movement is because my life journey and history reveals that it is bottoms-up movements, and you have to go offline. So if you're interested in that, and you have to go to Shatter the Swarm. Take 15 minutes with your family. I don't curse in that at all. Watch it. It is scientific understanding made accessible to everyday people. Everyone should watch that. You'll understand the mechanisms. I put a whole free video series together called Get Off the Plantation. After you see that, they're gonna be like, holy fuck, what do I do? Then you have to make the decision, Adam, to get off the plantation. And this is very hard for people because that means there's no more savior. You got to save yourself.
That's what I say. Get off the Abrahamic plantation is what I always say.
So we're at the same page. So I teach people, now you have to get off the plantation. Now you need tools. And the tools are your neighbors, working people. And so when we ran our campaign, no one thought we would get on the ballot. I'm a naturalized citizen. I'm not supposed to run theoretically. What we did, we got on 13 ballots and nearly every ballot as write-in. In Massachusetts, we defeated that other liberal Zionist fucking scumbag, Jill Stein. Total fucking Zionist, right? She's the one who threw Cynthia McKinney out of the Green Party because McKinney said Israel may have caused 9/11. So you have liberal Zionists, you have the anti-Zionist grifters that you pointed out, which was very good, right? And then you have people who actually are in the midst of seeing this, who are building these bottoms-up movements. They're going to cap our views. They're going to cap our clicks. And the future is offline. And you have to build a movement. And these people are lazy. The advantage we have is they're lazy, and they underestimate the power of everyday people.
You say the future's offline, but a lot of people would say that it's through the internet is where, like, Trump goes on all these streamers podcasts, right? And the new news is on Twitter. Like, aren't elections kind of being won largely on the internet these days?
Well, elections are selections, Adam.
Right. That's why you're saying that's my point, is you need to get off the internet because it's controlled. You're never the revolution won't be televised, and it's not going to be on Twitter or the internet. The real revolution.
Every time new technologies come, they get much better at consolidating power. Before you had in Massachusetts, there were probably 320 different local newspapers. Okay, one organization called Arabella owns all those newspapers, and they make them look like patch.com, right? Gateway Media. So all the local newspapers, there's no more paper, very rarely. They're all local news sites, and they're all controlled. Clear Channel, one media company, owns all the airwaves for radio, the billboards. When I wanted to do only the real Indian can defeat fake Indian, oh, we can't do that. This is why I believe, and this is going to sound contrary, but some of these resources must be public resources. Why? Because the First Amendment protects them. If we had public TV stations that you and I could use, and they decided not to give you a chance on there, Adam, you could sue and you would win. But when private companies start owning public infrastructure, this is the end. And when Reagan came into office, he took the Postal Service and he outsourced it to FedEx and DHL. They can open up your fucking mail. They can read all your shit. But if the Postal Service does it, it's a 22-year sentence in prison. So we no longer have any legislative authority to exercise the Bill of Rights as this infrastructure is moved to public companies, private companies. So this is what happened in China. The heads of the party and the heads of the major companies are one. How is this different than Elon Trump? I mean, Elon runs my political future on social media.
That's fascism, like the definition of fascism.
It is
right?
fascism.
Mm-hmm.
There you nail it. It is fascism. So they brand it as socialism and communism. So
and
you have
free market and privatization. Yeah.
Exactly. There is no free markets. If there was free markets, then let me debate fucking Elon head on anything technical. Mm-hmm. Let's have a real free market. My views would be probably 30 million fucking followers. They do not want real genius, us, the people who are infinitely genius, to come up from below. They must anoint their fake heroes. And the final thing I want to let people understand, Adam, is that one of the most phenomenal aspects, in my view, philosophically, of existence is you must go through your hero's journey, right? You're born into this world, you must face struggle, you must overcome them, and then you become a hero with some great message. That is the classic hero's journey. And it may be part of our DNA, part of our epigenetics to go through that. What they have done is they understand the hero's journey, like the work of Joseph Campbell, right? And they have seized the hero's journey and made sure you outsource your future to fake heroes. So they create Trump with this thing, oh my God, I got shot. Wait, let me stand up, right? They have created fake heroes' journeys. So you outsource your own heroism, and this is the deepest attack if you believe in any concept of the soul. It's an attack on the individual, physically, emotionally, but spiritually. You do not go through your own struggle. You don't get out there. You don't fight. You don't go through your lulls and fight.
You trust the plan and you wait for Jesus. The white hats are in charge.
Exactly. And this is what Hollywood is about. All the Marvel Comics movies are the hero's journey. In the first 3 minutes, you meet the protagonist, you meet his call to action, you meet the fact that the mentor comes, he decides where he's going. And this is the hero's journey that they have outsourced. So they don't want you to be a hero. And I'm saying we must be heroes. We must get on the ground. I mean, our movement has about 500,000 people, everyday working people. We have a plumber and an electrician who filed a lawsuit in federal court. That's the future, Adam. We have to fight, and we have to go through and it's not going to be easy. We're going to lose 80% of the time. But through those struggles, we're going to create heroes, and they don't want us to do that.
Voting the lesser of two evils and trying to say that you're having W's when Trump's just appointing a bunch of Zionists and serving Israel more than ever isn't going to do it.
No way. So that's, to me, the total consolidation. And it's funny, Elon says this is Orwellian. He's fucking Orwellian, right? They're using the words, the level of duplicity is like never before. And Mossad's slogan, everyone must know, is thou shalt do, through deception, thou shalt do war. So it's Mossad is running the United States right now. I used to say, if you want to save the Palestinian people, you have to, it's not ceasefire. Ceasefire is a Zionist created slogan. Ceasefire. Ceasefire has been a slogan that the Zionists have been using
You know, that Mossad motto is from the Zohar, so Kabbalistic, through wage war, through deception. And both of the former prime ministers in Israel, Ehud Barak and Ehud Olmert, say that the messianic crazies are in charge of Netanyahu and Israel. It's like we have a Judeo-Christian cult running our country and Israel. And it's a death cult. They believe in Armageddon and the rapture and the third temple and messiahs and stuff. And
you can add the Hare Krishnas to this. You can add the Brahmins to this. Mm-hmm. You know, Tulsi Gabbard is
and the Muslims.
Yeah, well, the Hare Krishnas believe that Krishna, the Avatar, will come again. You see, and
Muslims think Jesus is going to return to defeat the Antichrist, like the Christians do.
So they have
the hero's journey, waiting for the Savior to come.
Exactly. So you are supposed to be the hero. That is, if there's anything you believe in any sense of real natural type of connection to nature, you're supposed to go through your struggle. You're supposed to fight things. You're supposed to struggle. And out of that, you become a human being. They want to deny that to people. That's the real soul-wrenching thing that's taking place right now, Adam. These fucking fake heroes. And they're so blatantly booby fucking Kennedy. I mean, the motherfucker he'd be fucking homeless if he didn't have a Kennedy name. He'd be fucking homeless. Trump would be in the fucking trash. The guy's not a businessman. He's a fake businessman.
Yeah.
I have a very good friend who was his consultant 8 times. Okay? And he went to meet with Trump one time, and he went to meet with Trump, and Donald said, he goes, I can't believe I'm bankrupt. He goes, Donald, you have $1 billion in assets and you have $2 billion in liabilities. You're a negative billionaire. Okay?
Yeah.
You have to understand this guy is a fool.
He was $4 billion in debt when the Rothschild bankers and Wilbur Ross bailed him out. And his name on all these buildings, he doesn't own those buildings. He leases out his name. He's a brand.
Right.
Yeah.
So people need to understand these people are fake. Elon Musk is not a technologist. Trump is not a businessman. Tulsi Gabbard is not anti-war. And Booby fucking Kennedy wants to fucking vaccinate. He wants full vaccination of all Americans. And Mike Johnson he wants to have Armageddon. Okay. And the 70 million Christian Zionists are not Jewish, they're Christian Zionists. Okay. And Christ would have whipped all these people. If you go through this story of Christ, the people who hung him were the Zionists, the Sadducees and the Pharisees. Okay. So whatever you want to look at rationally, critical thinking is what's gone, Adam. I mean, one of these grifters, right after October 7th, Jake Shields, called, I had a conversation with him. Jake didn't even know the difference between Zionism and Judaism. And then he put fucking Fuentes on.
What is the difference between Zionism and Judaism?
It's a good question. Let's talk about it. Mm-hmm. So at one level, there is no difference. Okay, if you look at the Talmud religiously. The other issues there are.
In the Torah. I'd say Zionism is just Judaism, Torah Judaism, like political action.
Right.
Or even just like the belief of the God of Zion is how I define it also.
Right. So what I'm saying is, like, you could call Indians Hindus, right? Mm-hmm. Broadly, right? Mm-hmm. Then you have the Brahmin Hindus who believe in the caste system, and then you have devout Hindus, okay? Like people who actually practice Hinduism. But you could call broadly Indians as Hindus. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I think it's very important to attack these people with Zionism, so people like Fuentes and these people do not conflate them and they take it to another realm, you see? Because politically, the word Zionism gives us an opportunity to expose the political aspects of how not only Zionism, broadly Zionism, Brahmanism, right? These political ideologies. And if it wasn't Zionism, Adam, it would be something else, okay? Because you take these religious texts and then you take pieces of them, whatever it is, and then you justify some political ideology. Ultimately, I'll define what Zionism is. To me, Zionism is racism in the service of imperialism. Same with Brahmanism. So I look at things from a capital standpoint, okay? Money and the development of society. You have a bunch of people. You need toilets cleaned. You need stuff done for cheap labor, right? How do you brainwash people to accept their lot in life? They're born into a world, and then you have to make them accept that, oh, you have to clean toilets the rest of your life, right? Or it's good that you're a goyim, right? How do you make them accept that? You must create a political ideology that makes those people think that they are inferior, that they are less. That's what Zionism is. I mean, the guy who created Zionism was an atheist, right? Theodore Herzl.
Well, I wouldn't, the modern Zionist movement, he was one of the guys that led it. But Zionism, the idea of like returning to the Holy Land, that's long predated the 1800s. Rabbis have been wanting to return to the Holy Land, and they pray next year in Jerusalem and to rebuild the temple and have their Messiah and their prophecies. Since the temple was destroyed, they basically were trying to, with Bar Kokhba, they were trying to go back. That was a Zionist movement. Zabbatai Zevi in the 1600s was a Zionist movement. So I don't think he invented Zionism.
Well, what I'm saying is, well, he's the one who came up with the term Zionism, right? He promoted it, and he formalized it into a structure. He got it funding by the biggest racists in the world, like Cecil Rhodes, who was butchering Africans. He funded it as a movement. I agree with you. There were these other things, but he formalized it into a structure, an organizational structure. And he was fueled by, things like
anti-Semitism. That was his big use to get the state of Israel.
So Zionists need anti-Semitism. They definitely need anti-Semitism to fuel Zionism, right? They need to have Jews being attacked because that's their foray into why people need to be Zionists and go back to Israel. So it's a very, but this is.
I get your point about using Zionists instead of. I think Zionism and Judaism are very closely related. Essentially the same thing. There would be no Zionism without Judaism. But I get your point and people's points. You don't want to blame all Jew, every Jew, like Christians do, and say they're cursed by God and they killed Jesus.
Let me give you a very specific example of modern times. If you go look at, Hitler was funded by a lot of the imperialists. Okay. There's we should probably have a larger conversation on this, Adam. We could do it part 2. I don't want to diminish it. But I think we should have a conversation on what was going on in Russia, what happened in World War II. Look, I have a friend of mine. He's a Jewish professor. And he said something interesting. He goes, Shiva, I don't practice Judaism, but I'll tell you this. You have, like, when it comes to Zionism, he goes, it's black and white. If you're a human being, you have to completely expose Zionism for what it is. It's anti-human. And he goes, it's like a black and white line, So you have a whole bunch of Jews who were born Jews. They don't even practice Judaism. They could be atheists. They're called Jews, right? Because they grew up in a Jewish family, right?
There could be anti-Zionist Jews, and that most Zionists are Christians in the world.
That's what I'm trying to say. In fact, the entire royal family of Saudi Arabia is Zionist. You could talk about if you take whatever the X% of Brahmins in India, maybe 100 million Brahmins are Zionists, right? The people who control the media in India are Brahmins. In fact, a lot of Brahmins now are in the New York Times and major media in the United States.
I see it. Hold on, sorry. I see it all boiled down to Zionism is just like Torah and prophecy, like the God of Israel and prophecy. If you believe if prophecy's real, in my mind, I see you as a Zionist. But you could also be a Zionist if you're secular atheist. If you just love the state of Israel and the reasons that it needs to be created and stuff, then you're still a Zionist. But religious Zionism, if you believe in prophecies at all, in my mind, you're a Zionist because you believe in the prophecies of Zion, of the God of Zion.
Yeah, I mean, I think these are, if it wasn't Zionism, they'd create something else. It's a political vehicle to diminish one human being over the other, to justify destroying them. I mean, we had manifest destiny, right? That's how you justify the genocide of the Native Americans, right? There have been many, many philosophies that get created to justify the butchering of masses of people to exploit their land. It's ultimately about real estate, to taking away other people's land and resources, and you have to create a philosophy to do that. And that's what these are. Remember, philosophy is very, very powerful, right? Because you inject that into people. It's the operating system of political control. You keep saying that over and over. And when a Brahmin kid is born in India, and it happens with Jewish kids. I went in the last 3 years, Adam, I went to an all Jewish Zionist high school. In the 70s, me and my sister were only the 2 dark-skinned Indian kids. I'd win every award. I was really good at sports.
You almost turned out to be Dinesh D'Souza, sounds like.
Well, what I'm saying is, but
he's a big Zionist and a Christian.
He's a fucking retard,
yeah.
Okay? Come on. He looks like a little squirrel rat, okay? Moron, okay? So what I'm saying is that I remember I had won an award, and I shared this. It's something like, and it was a big event, And the teacher of the school was a big assembly. We're graduating. Said, you know, Shiva's the first. He goes, I typically give this award to 2 kids because I can only give it to Shiva. No one came close to him. Big standing ovation. And I'm leaving the auditorium with my father. And it was unfortunate was my mother had been in a massive car accident. So I didn't really care about this award. We were going to go visit her at the ICU. This Jewish woman, Eric Greenberg, his mother, comes running at me. And my father, and my dad's very, very upset if his wife is going to live or not. Your son has done nothing great. My son, Eric, could have won that award, but he decided this year not to work. He decided not to work hard this year. But the level of anger that I would see among these chosen people when someone like me would exceed them, you see? And that's where this comes from, this deep hatred of all of us. It's absolutely, it's sort of racism against everyone else but them. So by doing that, by diminishing other people, you could say, you know what? You don't get those resources. You don't get that much money because you're less than us. And that's what this is about, Adam.
Yeah.
And
No, dehumanizing the nations and elevating the chosen people. That's definitely what it is at the core of it.
That's what that McDonald's picture is. Mm-hmm. That's fucking dehumanizing the rest of us. Mm-hmm. Ha, ha, ha. See, you guys can eat this. And we do eat it once in a while. But this is really for you, you fucking motherfuckers. Right? And we're going to feed you that. And the guy that says he's going to make America healthy is eating that. It's a big fuck you. That's the dehumanization. And they must dehumanize people so they can destroy lifespan and increase our cost of living so they can.
If Bobby was legit, he would have been like a photo op with McDonald's after it's like a slap you. It's just like you idiots believed us. That's kind of what it feels like.
Well, I also think no one should call him Bobby. Mm-hmm. People should call him fucking Booby. Let me tell you why. Another brainwashing. No one knows this guy. Oh, Bobby. It's his whole brainwashing, although he's one of our friends. He's our next door neighbor. His father got shot. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. They have come up with very powerful words, engrams to fuck with us. That's why I use these curse words, and they come out naturally. I can't explain it because of my hatred towards them. And you must give the most disrespect to these people. You must call him Booby fucking Kennedy. You must call him Fucker Carlson because you're breaking your own neural networks of abuse. They're making us abuse victims, Adam, at a very, very deep psychological level. And I can tell you that all the linguistic departments of most of the major universities know this. It's behavioral psychology. B.F. Skinner, they are studying this in math.
They always talk about, sorry to interrupt, they always talk about Trump using his terms he comes up with, his labels and names he comes up with people and how persuasive and powerful that is.
Right, so they are watching my terms. Susie Wiles is from the deep state Ballard Communications. She was at Mercury. PR agencies, what is PR? PR is messaging, the right messaging at the right time. I mean, right 2 days later, Trump is saying shatter, he didn't want to say shatter the swarm, they'd be total parade. Shatter the censorship regime, shatter the deep state. I had to call him out, you see, because if they see a term doing well, they will seize it. I mean, when I did that thing, I do not suck Zionist cock, right? That came out naturally, but you immediately saw the anti-Zionist grifters owning it, you see? Because whenever we, bottoms up, come up with something, they have to grab it, and then they have to own it. And so they have an entire infrastructure, Ari Emanuel, Mercury, Ballard. That's why Susie Wells is his handler. It is not an accident that you've put a woman who's a fucking goddamn PR messaging person to run him, to message him. And they are right now using this conversation. It's being messaged, it's being run through an analysis, and they're probably watching comments in real time, seeing which message hits.
ADL just released a list of all the comments on Twitch, and it had the list of all the anti-Semitic terms. Goyim the Goyim no was like number one of the first ones. So yeah, they're 100% doing that.
Yeah, and it's real time. Look, in 1993, when I was at MIT, I was doing research on what is now called AI, information cybernetics, and I had created a way to analyze pretty much any signal, clustered, et cetera. I have a patent on this. You guys can go look it up. But at that time in 1993, the White House was running a contest. Remember, email was an inter-office application up until 1993. After that, it became a consumer application. The White House was getting, 5,000 emails per day. And the White House ran a competition, an industry-wide competition that they used to do in the 40s. Are there technologies that can automatically read email and route it and figure out a response? Long story short, Adam, I was one of the few grad students asked to participate. I ended up winning that contest. And I left MIT and I started a company called Echo Mail, okay? This was my first life with email, creating the email system as we know it today. Before I came to MIT, Adam, okay, email was not invented by the military-industrial complex. It was invented by a 14-year-old kid growing up in Newark, New Jersey. Inbox, outbox, everything. I named it email. I have the first fucking copyright. But I was not taught to be a good Zionist learning how to promote myself, you see? It went into the Smithsonian many years later. When my mom died, she had saved all the communications. And who attacked me were the liberal Jewish academics who had anointed that someone who was part of the military-industrial complex invented email. All he did was do simple text messaging. Anyway, that's why the Gawker lawsuit was a big win. But nonetheless, my second life with email was analyzing and routing email. And I built a company for customer service to do that, Adam, long before AI, modern AI kind of stuff now. So these algorithms are pretty simple clustering, simple neural networks. So what they have now is they have dashboards that will just tell Vivek the Snake, say this message. Trump, speak this, say this. That's what's going on. The level of control is going on, what we say in control systems theory, in nanoseconds. So, if a plane is going off course, it would go off course for, a mile, and then you have to correct it. Now they can do it very rapidly, right? So they watch our criticisms, and if it's taking, they bring it back. They suppress the real message. So that's what's going on. And that's why everyone must learn system science.
That's what Cambridge Analytica was doing, the messaging. And Robert Mercer is the guy behind that, Mercer, I believe. Yep. A tech guy, AI tech guy.
Yep. Bob Mercer, I've spoken to him. He has a lot of respect for the work I've done. He funded Trump. First time he no longer funds him anymore. So what I'm saying is, with my background and credentials, I've had a chance to get at a very deep level these people, and I don't like them. I've had many chances to sell out to them, man, but I just cannot, I will not do it. And so my only life has brought me to the point. The only way is bottoms-up movement, man. It's the only thing. And my job, my mission in life is to educate people how to build those movements if they want to. If you want to save yourself, I will teach you how. If you want to be a Zionist cocksucker, I don't even want to fucking talk to you, right? So that's the bottom line, Adam. But there's 8 billion.
It's a real uphill battle because even legitimate grassroots movement, they can squash it, infiltrate it, and then they have their own astroturfed movements that appear, and they just got at every turn, they've got some advantage and a chokehold.
They do. But you know what? I believe the purpose of life is to go through your own hero's journey and to fight evil. There is no other purpose in life. To me, that's the conclusion I've come to through my own sort of reflection on this. And if you look at it, what is, Booby fucking Kennedy, make America hopeless again, helpless, whatever that nonsense he's got? What is, now I'm going to put on my hat as a scientist, as someone who's been in the field of health since 1978, when I did research on why babies were dying in their sleep. What is the number one reason, the number one key driver into causing lifespan? What is the number one driver?
Diet?
Nope.
Where you're born? Toxins?
Getting closer.
Chemicals?
Income inequality.
Oh.
Okay? Stress. Let me tell you that when you really study the body, and I write papers every day in science. My work is in systems biology. That's what my PhD is in. And I'm considered one of the leaders in this field of systems biology. So
you believe in evolution?
Well, the data points to that. Yeah.
Good. Just wanted people to hear it. There's so many people that deny evolution. They want to be creationists.
Let me add a caveat to that. There could be other forces that drive natural selection beyond Darwinian natural selection. There could be thermodynamics. Let me explain. This is a quick aside. So, for example,
epigenetics too. I've heard that epigenetics also. Yeah. So that's there's a law also. Some scientists law that does it as well.
Here's the bottom line. The universe is so. If natural selection was fully the governing factor, we could have potentially 10 eyes around ours. We don't. We have 2 eyes. Okay? A sunflower is round, right? It's not square. So natural selection, which is a competitive forces, could be one factor. But that doesn't mean there's not other forces driving evolution. Like, for example, thermodynamic theory, right? So it may be advantageous to have eyes all around our head, right? Because you can see an enemy coming, but it may be thermodynamically infeasible it may be easier to have sagittal symmetry, you see? So there are other things. What I'm saying is, so the evolution, the nature of things evolving could be affected by not only pure Darwinian natural selection, but also thermodynamics, right? Some physical parameters. That's what I'm trying to say, okay? Planets are round, right? They're not like jagged and shit, right? So anyway, but what was I talking about before I went there? Forget what I was, so what I was saying is that about health, the number one reason is that you have people who eat shit, they do this, they smoke, but they're happy. They have friendships, they have community. The number one reason people live long, the biggest centenarian cultures, are because of community, friendships, close bonds, lack of stress. Stress. When you get stressed, man, you have no idea what it does to you. Genes turn on. You have what's called the HPA axis, hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenals. So when you are stressed out, you get ulcers. Your adrenal glands are enlarge, and you have all sorts of things that take place in your body. Stress. So you could eat. You ever see people eating vegan food? They're eating everything perfect, but they're fucking stressed out. You see it in their face. Okay? Stress is the number one killer of human beings. What is the number one reason that causes stress? Financial woes, stresses by what's caused by financial conditions. A mother who's got 2 kids, her husband leaves her, whatever, right? Or a guy loses his job. He's got to, no one, so the elites don't want to talk about income inequality. Why does Booby fucking Kennedy want to talk about it? He'll talk about drinking green juice, toxins. Now look, I've studied both. I have a certification we do for clean food. We have system stuff. All of that I support. But if you look at it from a Pareto analysis, no one wants to talk about income inequality. If you look at all the low income neighborhoods and you look at lifespan, it's an order of 30 to 40% less. If you have $300,000 in assets, you're going to live, 70% chance you're going to live greater than the age of 65, okay? No one wants to talk about the massive income inequality that these fucking clowns have created. When did Elon Trump get his $200 billion? It was during COVID. 600 billionaires increased their wealth by $2.3 trillion in the midst of COVID. All of these guys, explosive concentration of wealth. They print money, and they send it over to Wall Street. They pump it to Wall Street. And then what happens for the rest of us? Inflation occurs, cost of living goes up. So this is a scam that's taking place. So they must need money, infinite amounts of, must have the ability to print money in order to do this. Well, how do you print money? You have to be the reserve currency. How do you be the reserve currency? You have to have a war machine. This is at the heart of what we're getting to. The United States economy is not backed by gold, not backed by petroleum. It's backed by aircraft carriers in Israel, by being a war machine. So all the latest economic theory is called modern monetary theory, which tells American leaders to print money, print money, print money. Trump printed $8 trillion in one term. Obama took him 2 terms. So why can they print money? Because the U.S. can go bully people. You will use our currency. And that's the essence of all of this. So you need to potentially likely start a war with Russia to get assets, but more importantly, it is devastating the American public. You want to talk about health, fucking booby? And all you people, why don't we expropriate all the fucking wealth you guys made during the pandemic? Let's do that. And Vivek the Snake is saying, I'm going to choose some random odd numbers and get people off Social Security. Why don't we expropriate all of his fucking wealth that he made illegally with Axevant? So they do not want to talk about them. When you do, they'll say, oh, you're a communist, you're a socialist. You see, they have checkmated the American mindset that when you want to talk about working people rising up, ooh, that's communist, that's socialist. When it was the American workers, May Day, which is now a communist holiday, was in commemoration of 4 American workers who were shot fighting for the 8-hour workday in America. So the way they've checkmated this is quite profound, Adam, that they do not want the American people fighting for their own bottoms-up movements. And it is income inequality and the lack of community that has created infinite amounts of destruction of health. Community, when you have friendships, 1,000 genes turn on positively. When you don't have friendships and community, 1,000 genes go the other way epigenetically. You get inflammation, you get reduced immune systems. That's what happened during COVID. Fucking Trump and Booby Kennedy killed people. I was the one who said, do not do the lockdowns. Kennedy said lockdowns are good. People went on antidepressants. How many people do you, I mean, we're humans. We're supposed to have love, friendship, connection. And what's going on is the destruction of that, the atomization of that. And that creates infinite stress in the human being. Infinite. They don't have those kind of stresses, man. And if they do, and this happens, that happens, they go to their Beverly Hills people, they get their surgery and all that kind of shit. But average people in the United States, when you affect stress, you affect your fat metabolism, you affect your immune system. You know, many years ago, when I used to go to a lot of the conferences on cancer or aging, they were different conferences. All of the conferences are now in the immune system. The immune system is a key to advancement of every disease. What affects the immune system? Stress. What affects stress? High cortisol levels. You're constantly under fight or fear. That's what the average American is. I mean, look at the fucking numbers, man. I mean, lifespan is going down.
Is it true that the immune system is like interconnected with the gut? And is that why you feel like when you're stressed out, you feel it in like your gut? Feel that like sick feeling?
I've done about 50 videos during COVID. I explained to people. So the way that the vaccine was developed was saying you have the innate immune system. Like if I sneeze on you, your body initially puts out certain things, call your early immune system to knock it out. And then 72 hours later, if it doesn't knock it out, your adaptive immune system kicks in and it creates antibodies. That's a two-box model of the immune system. Adam, do you know where that comes from? 1912. That's the base of vaccines. My research shows there's many other things. The gut microbiome. We have 380 trillion bacteria and other microbiome. We have the vagus nerve, which connects the gut to the brain. And then we have the interferon system. So those videos are what I did. I said, you got to fucking boost the immune system, stupid Trump. And that's why I came up with that protocol. Okay? So everything we can do is about boosting the immune system and creating resilience. And that has nothing to do with removing fluoride or this. I'm not saying don't take toxins out, but that's relatively minuscule compared to stress. You stress out someone, their hair can turn gray overnight, literally. Okay? They can, you know, come back with all sorts of diseases in their body. Stress, stress, stress. And that's what these motherfuckers are doing to the American people. Stress. Who creates the stress? They do. The fucking Zionists and the swarm. You want to make the world healthy again? Destroy the swarm. You're gonna have
all right.
long life.
Well, we're 2.5 hours. I think I told you we'd go hour and 15, but man, it flew by so fast, and it was interesting to get your perspective on all of this and hear about your history. I wasn't aware of all of that election stuff, and you've really been out there. You really are a force. Wasn't joking when I said that, but
well, Adam, I think it's very important people who understand these dynamics, really understand them, come together and build this movement. Now, the thing is, I've spent my life, I've built that infrastructure for people, the educational, the knowledge, the community. So as I sign off, it would be wrong if I didn't share that with people. Everyone should go to shattertheswarm.com. Watch the video with your family. Then, you know, I put together a series of lectures. It's called Get Off the Plantation. And go do that. You know, it's free. And I want you guys to do that because you will understand. If you don't understand the dynamics of how they manipulate us. And then every Thursdays, Adam, it's a long day for me. It's almost a 20-hour day. We have people all over Europe. You know, we have leaders now who've emerged, all bottoms up. You know, people who go through it and they learn, be it in the Netherlands, be it in Asia, be it in the United States. And these people are working people, work full time, but they go to their neighborhoods and they're educating people on the systems dynamics. So we're taking MIT knowledge and we're bringing it to the masses, you see? So people get the theoretical training, but then not to just be nerds, go out and hand out these cards. Talk to your neighbors, explain to them that they print money. That's how your cost of living is going up. And explain to them that that creates stress in your body. That's why lifespan's going down. And no one food, no drinking green juices, no doing, Pavan Muktasana or the Shavasana posture, with, paying fucking $200 for you. We don't. Yeah, we can do that, and I can talk all day because I've studied.
I almost joked if you were a guru and you had a meditation plan to reduce stress.
Well, I'll give it away to people. Take 15 minutes before you go to bed. Observe your natural breath. Mm-hmm. There, done. Okay. And by the way, in the ancient guru teachings of meditation, you know what they would do? The masters would never teach you any of this shit unless you were a good human being. They would teach you, were you an ethical human being? Would you work hard? Would you be disciplined? And then after that, then they would say, by the way, 5 seconds, I'll teach you meditation. Yoga and meditation was the end of the process. The beginning was, were you a good human being? Now it's all fucking flipped. All these new age people, I can do this stand, that stand. So I'm saying I've been trained in all of this. But my studies show me that if you want great health, you must shatter the swarm. They do not want us living long. They want to live long. They want to create it into a technocratic society with about 500 million people maybe, and machines running it. That's where this is headed. They hate you. Yeah. They do not like humanity. And so this is really, if you want to talk about evolution, this is what the evolution is. Will human beings win, righteous human beings who care about humanity, or will fucking slobs like Elon Musk and Vivek the Snake or Trump or Booby fucking Kennedy or Joe Biden, will that creature win? In some ways, it is evolutionary, Adam. Who will win this battle? Which animal will win? Their epigenetics or our epigenetics? So in some ways, it is a war. In some ways, it is survival of the fittest. That's what this is about.
Wow. Thank you, Dr. Shiva. Is very interesting to hear your take on the whole situation going down. Chat seemed to enjoy it. I got to wrap it up here, guys. Sorry, I'm not going to be able to read all these. Thank you, John Garadas, Liam, and Pulse Mend. Apologize for not getting to those, but I got to wrap it up. Getting text from the wife, and we'll have to do it again sometime. We'll see how the Trump, when he gets into office and the Trump term is shaping up. It'd be cool to talk again and get some more of your thoughts. So yeah. Thanks for the retweet the other day. Thanks for coming on. Tell everybody, is Twitter the best place to find you, or these websites here?
I'm on Twitter, Facebook, but you should go to Shatter the Swarm. That's where people should go to. Come to our orientation, vashiva.com/orientation. We do one-on-ones with people. People talk. We connect people up to people all over the world, so people have community. So you can start having intelligent, critical conversations with everyday people like us, Adam, not them. And so it is an us versus them.
It is. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for the donos. I will see you back again tomorrow with Devin from Black Pilled tomorrow night. And look forward to seeing what everybody has to say in the comments. Thank you, Dr. Shiva. We'll be in touch.
All right. See you and your family. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care, everybody. And let's see. There's the outro.